want you tonight. My darling says this in a purring voice that sends shivers down my spine. Oh boy. With the precision of a seasoned housewife, I could fillet him with my kitchen knife right now. I'll make him see hell. He better be ready. My name is Michelle. I'm a 36-year-old who loves drinking. Thanks to the pandemic, I've taken up drinking alone as a hobby, but I used to enjoy nights out with friends. Today's story is about one of those crazy nights out. Back then, I was in my late 20s. Married to Kevin for 2 years, our life was going smoothly, and I had no particular worries. Until that moment. One night, while Kevin was sleeping next to me, he kept murmuring, "Michelle, Michelle." Was he dreaming about me? How cute, I thought, until he said, "Mickey, Mickey." No, you can't, but you're so adorable. By the way, no one has ever called me Mickey. Kevin's parents' Pomeranian is called Rosie, but it sounds too different to be a mix-up. Is he calling me Mickey in his dreams? That's kinda cute, but it's weird since he never calls me that in real life. Curious, I asked Kevin the next morning, "Last night, you said Mickey, Mickey in your sleep. What kind of dream were you having?" I asked playfully, but his face stiffened. That's not an ex-girlfriend or something, is it? I probed lightly. Actually, it is, he admitted without hesitation. Kevin said, I just had a dream about an old memory. It doesn't mean anything now. But it feels weird to know that his ex-girlfriend and I share the same name. It's not exactly a unique name, but I couldn't shake off the discomfort. About 2 months later, Kevin came home from an office party, completely drunk, escorted by his junior colleague. He had been celebrating the promotion of a junior he had mentored for a long time and got a bit too carried away. It was such a sweet story that I couldn't get mad, so I sighed, "Oh well," and helped him to bed. Ugh, sniff, sniff. Kevin started crying, sniffling uncontrollably. Seriously? He's a crybaby when drunk. I thought while trying to soothe him, "You've had too much to drink." Michelle. Michelle. Yes, yes, I'm right here. Don't go anywhere, Mickey. My eyes widened in shock. What? He's calling his ex-girlfriend's name again? Don't go anywhere. It sounds like he's still hung up on her. When I thought he was calling my name, I found his drunkenness cute, but now that I know he was calling out his ex's name, suddenly, I couldn't care less. Needless to say, I left him passed out in the hallway. The next morning, I asked Kevin, not even trying to hide my irritation, "Hey, you said Mickey again last night." Kevin's face turned pale, and he covered his mouth with his hand. Oh, I messed up again. You were drunk, crying, and saying Mickey, Mickey. Do you still have feelings for her? Even before we started dating, you were still in a complicated relationship with her, right?
And no, it's only you now.
That now bothers me. And the fact that she has the same name as me makes me feel uneasy.
Well, at first, it's true that when I met you after breaking up with her, I noticed your name because it was the same. But that was just a coincidence. I married you because I love you. Please believe me.
When he bows his head with a desperate "I'm telling the truth," it makes me feel like I'm the kind of petty woman who would accuse her innocent husband just because he reminisced about an old relationship. Well, I guess that's pretty much what I am, though. But I also know that Kevin's relationship with his ex-girlfriend wasn't exactly smooth, especially right before we started dating. She still had feelings for him at that time, inviting him out on personal outings and doing things that were basically like dating, even though they were supposed to be broken up. So I made it clear to Kevin, if you want to be with me, you can't hang out one-on-one with another girl, especially not your ex. And after that, he stopped seeing her. Nothing happened after that, so I trusted Kevin and started dating him. Why have you been thinking about your ex so much recently? You never used to say her name before. I don't know, but I think it's because a mutual friend mentioned her to me the other day, and it just brought back memories. Really, it's nothing. Even if it's nothing, it's still not funny. I mean, I sometimes dream about my ex-boyfriends or first love too, but I don't talk in my sleep. It's not like I have lingering feelings for them, but I do occasionally feel nostalgic or remember the butterflies in my stomach from back then. But that's all there is to it. When I wake up and see Kevin sleeping next to me, I sometimes feel a little guilty for getting flustered in my dream, even though I haven't done anything wrong, so I get why accusing Kevin of calling out his ex-girlfriend's name in his sleep is so embarrassing. But when he says, "The reason I noticed you at first was because you have the same name as my ex," even though I know it's all in the past, it still makes me feel bad. Well, it's not like he's cheating on me, and I've heard that men tend to hold on to memories of their past relationships longer than women do. So, in an effort to be understanding, I decided to make up with Kevin that day by buying my favorite cream puffs as a reconciliation. But about a month later, one day while I was out shopping, I saw Kevin walking with a woman. And I had the feeling that I recognized her face. She looked a lot like the woman in Kevin's college yearbook, the one who was pictured with him when he was younger. I only saw that picture once, and I didn't get a close look this time either, so I couldn't say for sure that it was the same woman. But I couldn't help thinking, could that be Mickey? That night, after getting Kevin a little tipsy, I confronted him about what I saw earlier in the day.
Hey, I saw you walking with a woman by the station today. Huh? What are you talking about? I was working. Really? Can I ask your office about it? It's true. I was out on a sales call.
I thought I saw Kevin's face twitch for a second, but then he offered me his phone and said, "You can ask my junior if you want." So, he really was at work after all. But just because he reacted like that doesn't mean he's innocent. Well then. By the way, what happened to your college yearbooks? Can I take a look at them? Kevin responded with, I threw them out when we moved in here. Now that I think about it, I do remember him saying something like, "I don't need these old albums anymore," when we moved from our old place to this house. Oh, there goes my only clue. After that, Kevin stopped calling out his ex-girlfriend's name in his sleep. He didn't start going on more business trips, coming home late, or constantly checking his phone either. As time passed without finding any real evidence of infidelity, I started to think, maybe I was just overreacting. Then one day, my high school friend, Elena, who had been working abroad, told me that she was moving back to the US for business. She invited me to meet up in our hometown, and I eagerly agreed to join her. Elena had moved overseas for work, and after that, another friend, Tracy, and I both moved away from our hometowns after getting married. So, this was the first time in about 10 years that this group was getting together in our hometown. It was perfect timing, so I thought I'd ask them about what was going on with Kevin. But as the three of us met at the station and exchanged jokes like "you've changed," or "hey, haven't you put on a bit of weight?" the kind of teasing that only old friends can get away with, we entered the pub we had reserved, and in the back of the room, I saw a familiar man. He was with a woman. Ironically, our table was right behind theirs. The guy looked an awful lot like Kevin, but he said he'd be home tonight. Could it be? Maybe I've been suspecting Kevin so much that I'm starting to see things. I thought, but I still sat down right behind that man.
Isn't it risky to take a trip all of a sudden? Won't your wife find out? Well, she's out of state tonight, said she's going out with friends. Wow, but where we are is technically out of state too, right? What if your wife shows up? Then that'd be bad, but I'm sure it's fine. She said she was going to visit some friends in their hometown. Then we're safe.
That voice and conversation sound awfully familiar. Worrying about whether his wife will find out and coming to a pub together. This sure looks like cheating to me. It's infuriating. Is the woman sitting across from Kevin Nikki? I had told Kevin that I was going back to my hometown, but he clearly wasn't listening at all. As I listened to Kevin and the woman I assumed to be Mickey talk, I could feel the veins on my forehead beginning to bulge in anger. My friends noticed and asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen?"
The guy behind us is my husband. What?
My two friends shouted, and I quickly motioned for them to lower their voices with a desperate show.
What do you mean? He's with a woman,
they said, and I was about to explain, well, actually. But I stopped myself. Kevin was right behind us. If I told them about my recent suspicions about Kevin, he would hear everything and realize it was me. I considered writing down the situation in a message and sending it to them, but then...
Yeah, I like Mickey so much that I've been talking in my sleep a lot recently. My wife's been suspecting me of cheating the whole time.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that before.
Did it turn out okay? I admitted that Mickey was my ex, but I told her there was nothing going on now.
What?
And she believed you? She even saw us walking together once, but I'm glad Mickey is one of my clients.
I can always say it's work.
True, and you can keep in touch through the work phone too.
Oh. I see, so that's how it is. Using work as an excuse to cheat, huh? My two friends seemed to have overheard Kevin and his ex's conversation, and they were now looking at me with pale faces, sensing my quiet fury. So that's the situation, I said, and they both nodded, understanding immediately. It saved me the trouble of explaining, but hearing the full extent of Kevin's infidelity from his own mouth was infuriating.
But it's been nice to finally have some time to catch up with Mickey.
We haven't had much work together recently.
Yeah, it's been, a few months? Looks like tonight's going to be a good time.
Huh, what are you talking about? Mickey feigned ignorance at Kevin's suggestive words, but the sweetness in their voices was thick enough to hang in the air. It was clear from that alone just how intimate they were.
Oh, come on, you know what I mean. I want you tonight.
As soon as Kevin's Casanova-like words hit the air, I couldn't help but stand up. Instinctively, I grabbed the table knife we were using to cut into the large fried chicken served as part of our course meal, and I turned to face Kevin.
Not a chance. Because I'm going to fillet you both with this knife. Huh?
In that instant, Kevin's face turned from shock to horror as he saw me. I realized now that it wasn't a filleting knife, so I misspoke, but the sight of me raising the table knife as if ready to stab him was enough to make his shoulders start trembling. Meanwhile, Mickey stared at me with a look that seemed to say, "Who's that?"
I'm Michelle.
Good evening.
You seem to be having a lot of fun. Vinny, who's that?
There I was, smiling, Kevin looking like the world had ended, and Mickey completely clueless. My friends watched the nightmare unfold with pale faces.
Come over here. Oh, could you both step outside? We don't want to disturb the other patrons. Ah.
Realizing I was the wife, both Kevin and Mickey shrank back, fear etched on their faces. Kevin and Mickey didn't want to leave, but my friends, understanding the situation, dragged them both outside. As the commotion settled in the restaurant, I explained the situation to the master, offering to cancel our reservation if it was a problem. But the master, whom I had never met before, not only kept our reservation but said, "I see." Go give that husband of yours a good lesson, Mrs. And after, we'll celebrate with a drink, with a smile. Well, now I absolutely have to enjoy that victory drink. Kevin and Mickey, dragged out by my friends, were sitting on the sidewalk in front of the restaurant. My friends held them down to make sure they couldn't escape. So, let's hear it.
Who's this woman, darling?
I asked, roughly yanking Kevin's tie.
Please, calm down. Kevin tried to soothe me with a trembling voice.
Why is he so scared? Then I realized, oh, I still have the table knife in my hand. Oh well. The master didn't say anything about it, and it makes for a good prop to scare them with. After all, getting into character is important.
Do you really think you're in a position to tell me to calm down? Whose fault do you think it is that I'm this mad? So, is this woman Mickey? Fess up. Ugh.
Kevin glanced at Mickey for a moment. He seemed to be asking, should I say something? Trying to make eye contact with your mistress right in front of your wife? You've got some nerve.
What are you looking at? I said as I brought the table knife closer to Kevin's face. Sorry. Yes, that's Mickey. Good. Now, how long have you been seeing each other? Have you been lying to me this whole time, even before we got married? If you lie, I'll stab you with this.
Of course, I had no intention of actually stabbing him with the table knife. But I needed to use it to control the atmosphere and tip it in my favor. My two friends also glared at their respective targets, making it clear to Kevin and Mickey that they had no chance of escape. Slowly, Kevin began to explain the situation. During our relationship and even after we got married, they really hadn't been in contact, and Kevin didn't even know where Mickey was. Mickey had gotten married, had a child, and divorced about a year ago. Neither of them had any lingering feelings for their past relationship, but they recently reconnected through work. Working together on business projects reignited the old flame between them. I see.
And you said, I want you tonight, just a moment ago, so you've been wanting her every time you've met, haven't you?
When I asked with a sweet smile, Kevin hesitated for a few seconds before lowering his head and muttering, I'm sorry. Feeling a bit irritated, I shook him violently by his tie and sneered.
Must be nice to live in your little world. And? What? Do you want to divorce me and marry Mickey? You better be honest, or I'll beat you down with this.
I grabbed an umbrella from the stand and pointed it at Kevin. Kevin let out a small ah. I had brought the umbrella along just in case it rained, but who would have thought it would come in handy like this?
And no, I don't want a divorce. Mickey! It was just... I got swept up in the moment. What?
Before I could react, Mickey exploded.
What do you mean? You told me I was number one, and now it was all a lie. No, it's not like that.
As Kevin floundered, I asked, so who's number one? You better answer truthfully. You know what'll happen if you don't. I handed the extra umbrellas to my friends, and all three were pointed at Kevin. Mickey glared at him with a murderous intent that said, say the wrong thing, and you're dead.
I mean, I like both of you. What?
With four women bearing down on him, Kevin's eyes darted nervously.
That answer is unbelievable. You said you'd be ready to help raise my child in the future, Vinny.
Mickey, now in tears, snapped.
I was fine with being the other woman for now. But are you saying you can't handle a single mom in the end? And no, that's not what I meant. It's just that with Michelle, I have responsibilities since we're married. Kevin stammered, trying to play the noble husband. Oh? So you feel responsible for dragging Mickey down the road of infidelity, but you don't feel any responsibility towards her? Poor Mickey. Whose side are you on, Michelle? Not yours, that's for sure.
Kevin was struck speechless by the cold look I gave him. How many times has he been lost for words today?
So what? You love me more than Mickey, and you want to stay married? Well, I mean, I like Mickey too, so it's more like... Can't you be clear? If you don't start talking straight, I'll ask the master for the sharpest knife in this place. You really want to be filleted? Just stop it, okay? These threats. I'm not scared of them. It's dirty. Do you think I'm joking? I was betrayed by the husband I loved. Right now, I could watch you suffer any fate, and I'd clap and laugh. Serves you right.
When Kevin saw the look in my eyes, he must have realized I was serious. He instinctively thought it was best to apologize, muttering, sorry, with a pale face. I'm sorry too, Mickey.
I mean, yeah, I wasn't totally over you before I got married, but after we reconnected, I think I was just looking for something different. I was probably just getting off on the thrill of cheating, feeling like I still got it. There are plenty of people who could make you happier than I ever could, so let's just end this.
I really want you to be happy, Mickey. Everyone, not just Mickey, was dumbfounded by Kevin's pathetic excuse. Mickey declared, I'll give you what you want. We're done, as she slapped Kevin hard across the face.
And now that it's all over, please, Michelle, give me another chance.
Kevin begged, clutching my hand. But my two friends kicked him away, saying, Hold on. You've got something to say to Michelle, don't you? They said, pressing the tip of the umbrella against Kevin's most sensitive area. At that moment, Kevin let out a desperate, no, no. Not there. Anywhere but there.
It's because of this that you're getting into these messes.
Then you don't need it. Should we crush it? I'll take the right side, Tracy can take the left. What about the middle?
Let's stomp it a few times.
Sounds good, let's do that. It might have seemed like we were joking, but the dead serious look in my friends' eyes made it hard to tell if they were kidding, even for me, who had known them for years. For a moment, I seriously considered bidding farewell to Kevin's manhood in my mind.
Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I'll make it up to you for the rest of my life. I sincerely apologize.
Kevin bowed deeply, his voice shaking as he begged for forgiveness. My two friends looked satisfied, as if they had been waiting for this moment.
You said you'd make it up to me for the rest of your life?
I asked Kevin. Of course. I'll do whatever it takes to show you how sincere I am. Kevin answered.
That's great to hear. So, let's go through with the divorce, and you can pay alimony. Oh, and make sure I get the house in the property settlement too. That'll really show your sincerity. What? Divorce? Of course. What made you think we'd stay married? The idea of living with a man who betrayed me is disgusting. But I broke it off with Mickey. I never said that breaking up with her would mean I wouldn't divorce you. You're the one who put me and Mickey on a scale. You broke up with her on your own and misunderstood the situation all by yourself. Got it?
Ignoring Kevin, who stood there with his mouth hanging open, looking like a fool, I declared that I would also be seeking compensation from Mickey. Mickey accepted it as something that can't be helped and even apologized to me. Afterward, my friends and I reported our victory to the master and enjoyed some celebratory drinks. A happy ending. Not quite. When we got down to discussing the divorce, Kevin started saying he didn't want a divorce. He shut up when I said, "I won't say where, but I'll crush you if you keep it up." After that, Mickey requested a transfer to avoid Kevin. Kevin not only lost the job he was handling but also just got divorced. Because of that, people at the company started suspecting, hey, weren't those two acting weird, and Kevin's affair became known. As punishment for engaging in an improper relationship with a client, Kevin was demoted. Meanwhile, I received the house, the car, and a nice sum in alimony as part of the property settlement. With that money, I started a cafe. It's a cafe and bar, where we serve coffee and other drinks during the day and alcohol at night. I opened it during the pandemic, and I was worried it might go under, but thanks to the locals who came by and the regulars who kept coming back, the business is thriving. I've even made some friends among the customers, and I'm really starting to enjoy this work. Next weekend, Elena and Tracy are coming to my place for drinks. After closing, we're all going out for a night on the town. Actually, I went out with some locals for a night out just last week. I've been drinking quite a bit lately, so I might come up with some liver-friendly finger foods for this time. I'm not remarried, but I really enjoy this life where I have people to eat and drink with. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. I'm living a happy life like that.
Joshua's company's president will be here in an hour.
My daughter-in-law Rachel's shrill voice echoed through the house, more piercing than usual. The sharpness of her tone made me wince.
Hey, what are you daydreaming for? Clean up quickly and prepare some coffee.
Rachel, treating me like a maid, rushed me around as we prepared for the big event of Joshua's company's president coming to our house. Clean up faster, maid. Even my grandson Cody barked orders at me in a harsh tone. Rachel, who never does any housework, was desperately ordering me around to avoid any embarrassment in front of the president, but she could at least do the cleaning herself. And, to be honest, about this president, I sighed deeply in my mind. Neither Rachel nor Joshua, who was changing into his suit in the bedroom, knew the truth. They had no idea who the president really was. I told Rachel, "I'm going to buy some snacks," and left the house. Thinking about what was about to happen made my heart race with excitement. They were all in for a big surprise. Leaving the three of them in the dark, I chuckled to myself. My name is Elizabeth. I'm 63 years old and still working at ABC Corporation, a trading company, but due to various circumstances, I live as a housewife at home. After Joshua moved out, I lived alone with my husband William, but a year ago, William had an accident that injured his leg, and now he's in a care facility. I offered to take care of him at home, but William insisted he didn't want to be a burden, so he chose to go to the facility himself. Knowing it was William's clumsy way of being considerate, I accepted his decision. So, a year ago, I started living alone, but in reality, I was only alone for about 3 months. Because 3 months after taking William to the care facility, Joshua, Rachel, and Cody moved in with me. And it is this family of my son that has disrupted my life now. Why did I end up living with them, and what have they done to me? Let me explain step by step. It all started with a phone call from Joshua. After visiting William at the care facility, I was relaxing at home when Joshua called.
Hey, Mom? We're moving in with you starting tomorrow.
What? What do you mean?
I was shocked by his words. Suddenly talking about moving in together? Joshua had always been rebellious and never listened to anything I said. The idea of him wanting to live with me was suspicious. He must have some sort of scheme in mind.
Just what it sounds like. Rachel, Cody, and I are moving in with you tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, I'm looking for a job right now. If you know of any good ones, let me know. I quit my job yesterday. But then again, you haven't had any significant jobs yourself, so I doubt you would know.
I couldn't believe the nerve of him. Not only was he forcing his way into my home, but he also insulted me in the process. The fact that Joshua was job hunting again was another red flag. Ever since graduating high school, he had bounced from one job to another: construction, factories, gas stations, you name it. Nothing ever lasted long. He'd quit as soon as he got bored or faced any difficulties. However, he had managed to stay with a mid-sized real estate company for the past 3 years, which was a record for him. And now he was job hunting again? What on earth did he do this time? It was frustrating to see him like this at the age of 35. Whether he quit or got fired, he wasn't in any position to belittle others about their careers. Trying to stay calm, I attempted to reason with him.
Suddenly moving in together is a bit much. Could you at least give me a week?
Sorry, but it's already decided. See you tomorrow. He hung up without listening to a word I said.
What on earth is he thinking?
As a mother, I felt pathetic for not being able to guide my son better. But Joshua had always been a handful, causing trouble for both William and me over the years. The next day, Joshua, Rachel, and Cody arrived at my doorstep.
We're here. Wow, this place is still as cramped as ever,
Rachel said, barging in.
I want the biggest room,
Cody demanded. They were as rude as ever, and I hadn't seen them in about a year. Cody, only 10 years old, already had a sharp tongue, clearly inherited from his parents. Sighing, I prepared some tea for the 3 of them.
I don't want tea. Do you have juice?
Cody complained.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting you, so this is all I have,
I replied.
Make sure you have juice by tomorrow,
Joshua said dismissively. They had barely arrived, and their attitude was already unbearable. I sighed deeply. From today, you'll need to cook for 3 more people. Also, we're all busy, so you'll handle all the housework, right? You're a housewife, after all.
Wait a minute. I do work a little, so we should share the chores,
I protested. No way.
Rachel's terrible at housework, and we had a maid until yesterday.
So, it's all on you. Thanks. Joshua said this and went upstairs to his old room on the 2nd floor. Rachel and Cody followed him. I wondered what would become of my peaceful days. The future seemed bleak, and I shivered at the thought. Then the truly hellish life with my son's family began. Joshua, having quit his job, stayed holed up in his room all day. Cody at least went to elementary school, but even Rachel, who was supposed to be a housewife, stayed in the room with Joshua. When they finally came down to the living room, it was only to grab snacks and drinks. They were like parasites, merely living in my house, and it gave me a headache. My job at ABC Corporation allowed for flexible hours, but doing laundry for the suddenly increased family members and cooking meals for 4 people at once was quite a task. However, when I was exhausted and resting, Rachel would glare at me and command, "Hey, why are you resting? You're a housewife, aren't you? Do your job properly?" As if she wasn't a housewife herself. I claimed to Joshua and Rachel that I was a housewife, but I also had a part-time job. Despite this, Rachel kept criticizing me without mentioning anything about herself, which was infuriating.
Rachel, you're a housewife too, aren't you? If you're not good at housework, I can teach you, so let's share the chores together,
I suggested to Rachel. However, Rachel only glared at me even more irritably and said, "Huh?
Why should I take orders from someone like you? I'm tired from raising a child. Just do the housework."
She treated me like a maid. I wondered how such an insolent adult could come to be, and I was troubled by it. Realizing that it was useless to say anything to Rachel, I decided to at least get Joshua to work. I negotiated with the HR department and arranged for Joshua to work at ABC Corporation. It was an exceptional case, but I coached Joshua on what to say during the interview, and he successfully got the job. Joshua was assigned to the sales department and finally escaped his jobless life. By the way, Joshua doesn't know that I work at ABC Corporation. When introducing the job, I told him that a friend of mine worked there and suggested he apply. Joshua, who was about to start job hunting, saw it as an unexpected opportunity and quickly agreed to the interview. ABC Corporation's new employee training is quite thorough, so even Joshua should be able to manage the work reasonably well. Though I couldn't do much about Rachel, I was glad that Joshua had secured a job and hoped he would at least lead a proper life. However, my life didn't change. In fact, with Joshua out of the house for work, Rachel took advantage and started pushing more tasks onto me. Household chores were manageable as they were part of my daily routine, but she even began to impose her shopping errands on me, saying,
"Go buy the cake that comes out today."
I resisted, saying,
"Shouldn't you be the one to go?"
"Huh?" But Rachel only responded with a defiant,
"Huh? What's the problem? You have a part-time job today, right? It won't hurt to stop by the store. Hurry up and buy it."
She always found convenient excuses to get me to do things for her. Rachel genuinely believed I only worked part-time. When I had to leave for work, I often used the excuse of visiting William for his care. While I did visit him sometimes, it wasn't always the truth. But I wanted to keep my job at ABC Corporation a secret for as long as possible. Rachel constantly exploited my position and kept assigning me chores, making my life increasingly unbearable within just a month of their arrival. Every time I thought about how many more years this situation might last, my mood turned dark. I sighed deeply and went out to buy the cake. 9 months passed, and now here we are. Despite my efforts, Joshua and Rachel continued treating me like a housemaid, and Cody ordered me around to fetch his snacks. Over time, I developed a thicker skin and learned to ignore their rude comments. But thinking about enduring this for years to come cast a shadow over my heart. In any case, I decided to kill my emotions and avoid useless resistance at home. I focused on smoothly managing both my job and household chores. My routine took an unexpected turn one Friday morning. As I arrived at work, I noticed the office was unusually busy, with people hurrying around. Curious about what was happening, I soon discovered the reason. Joshua, who worked at ABC Corporation, had been rude to an important client, causing a significant issue. He worked in the sales department and had been aggressively pushing new products to our clients. That, in itself, wasn't the problem. But when the client refused to make a purchase, Joshua's demeanor changed drastically.
"Do you think you have the right to say no?"
He yelled at them. Naturally, the client was furious and declared they would no longer do business with ABC Corporation. Moreover, Joshua had also fabricated fake contracts for new clients, selling products at prices higher than the standard rate. Normally, payments were made via bank transfer, but Joshua had cunningly insisted on cash-only transactions, pocketing the difference between the inflated prices and the actual cost, while depositing the remaining amount into ABC Corporation's accounts. When the finance department quickly caught on and questioned Joshua, he confessed to everything. Joshua was now out apologizing to the clients. Hearing about this series of scandals gave me a terrible headache. Since I had personally advocated for Joshua's hiring, I felt responsible for his misconduct. I apologized to all the employees who were handling the fallout and declared that appropriate measures would be taken against Joshua. After a long and exhausting day, I finally returned home at 9 p.m. Normally, I would be back by 7 p.m., so this was quite late. As soon as I walked through the door, a furious Rachel stormed out of the living room.
Hey, old hag! Where have you been? We've been starving here,
she yelled.
I'm so hungry I can't stand it. Hurry up and make dinner,
Cody added, just as aggressively. I sighed once again. If they were so hungry, they could have made something for themselves. Even Rachel, who wasn't good at cooking, could at least prepare some spaghetti. But instead, they chose to wait for me to return, only to demand that I cook immediately, nothing short of harassment.
All right. I'll start making dinner now. Just wait a bit,
I said. Make it quick, Rachel snapped. Despite having spent the entire day dealing with company-wide complaints, Rachel showed no consideration and continued to demand that I prepare dinner. I couldn't help but think she was the real complainer here. In the end, I quickly whipped up some spaghetti for Rachel and Cody. Exhausted, I didn't have the energy to eat myself, so I completed the minimum necessary household chores and went straight to bed. Joshua had not yet returned home. I spent the moments before sleep contemplating what to do about Joshua's situation at the company. The next morning, I had made up my mind about how to handle Joshua. I waited until he was awake and sent him an email. Since he still didn't know I worked at ABC Corporation, receiving an email from someone he didn't recognize on a weekend likely shook him. The email stated that a company representative would visit our home on Monday evening. Joshua seemed to understand the gravity of the situation after reading the email. He wore a troubled expression for the rest of the weekend. Monday arrived. I left work early, coming home well before usual. Rachel, who seemed to have slept in until noon, came down to the living room around 3 p.m. Joshua was with her. Cody had just returned from elementary school, so the entire family was gathered at home. Rachel, looking alarmed, rushed over to me as I sipped my coffee in the living room.
The president of Joshua's company is coming in an hour.
Rachel's voice, sharper than usual, echoed through the room. I winced at the piercing sound.
Why are you just sitting there? Start cleaning up. Prepare some coffee too.
Rachel, treating me like a maid, was frantic about the impending visit of the company president.
Get cleaning, housekeeper.
Even Cody chimed in with a harsh command. Rachel, who never did any housework herself, was desperately ordering me around to avoid any embarrassment in front of the president. But she could easily handle the cleaning herself. Besides, who exactly was this president? I sighed deeply inside. Neither Rachel nor Joshua, who was upstairs changing into a suit, knew the truth. They had no idea who the president was.
What could it be about? Maybe Joshua's promotion? I heard you recently secured a new contract worth several $100,000 from a new client.
Oh, Rachel said, looking thrilled, though I wondered where she got that information. Joshua, on the other hand, seemed to sense what was about to happen. He stood frozen, pale with worry. A promotion would be wonderful. If the president is coming all the way here, it must be something big.
So hurry up and clean, old hag.
Rachel turned back to me, urging me to prepare for the president's visit, still under the assumption that Joshua was being praised. Suppressing my exasperation, I told Rachel,
I'm going to buy some snacks,
and left the house. The thought of what was about to unfold made my heart race. They were all in for a surprise. Leaving the clueless trio behind, I chuckled to myself. Of course, I had no intention of buying any sweets after leaving the house. Instead, I retrieved a suit I had stashed in a nearby locker and changed in a restroom. Dressed in my usual work attire, I spent an hour outside before heading back home. When I rang the doorbell,
Yes.
I heard Rachel's saccharine voice from inside.
Hello. Welcome.
Rachel's cheerful smile faded instantly when she saw me.
Oh, it's you, old hag. Why did you ring the doorbell? Don't be so confusing.
Rachel sneered, her usual venomous tone cutting through the air. I looked at her confidently and said,
Good afternoon. I am Elizabeth, the president of ABC Corporation.
What? Rachel stared at me, dumbfounded, as if I'd spoken in a foreign language. Joshua and Cody emerged from the living room, their faces showing their attempts to grasp the situation.
ABC Corporation. President. What's going on?
Joshua asked, bewildered.
It's exactly as I said. I've been keeping it a secret, but I am the president of ABC Corporation.
Huh?
Joshua was the most shocked. I was the one who arranged for him to join ABC Corporation. I could only do that because I was the president. However, Joshua thought I merely referred him to a friend's company, so his surprise was understandable. Since Joshua was a child, I had worked at ABC Corporation. But Joshua never showed any interest in my job or his father William's work. He was more interested in mischief at school, hanging out with friends, and wasting time at arcades. Eventually, he started mocking me, thinking I did nothing worthwhile. So, I stopped talking about my job. If I had told them I was the president, both Joshua and Rachel would have surely tried to exploit me for money. To prevent that, I claimed to have a part-time job and kept my position a secret. ABC Corporation is a company with over 3,000 employees, and the people I usually interact with are the CEO, my secretary, and other executives. Although my name is on the company's website, Joshua apparently never looked at the company's profile page. While I felt a bit of sympathy for Joshua, who found himself in this situation unaware of who I truly was, the responsibility lay entirely with him. If he hadn't caused such trouble at work, I wouldn't need to confront him personally about his actions. It's all his own responsibility.
Sorry to surprise you, but I'm here today as the president of ABC Corporation to talk to Joshua. May I come in?
I spoke with an authoritative tone, different from my usual demeanor when following Rachel's orders. My professional aura made Joshua and Rachel comply immediately.
Yes.
They both responded, almost fearfully, and led me inside. I seated Joshua, Rachel, and Cody, and looked down at them as I spoke.
Today, we need to discuss Joshua's situation. Joshua, you caused a major incident at the company on Friday, didn't you? That client is one of our top 10 customers, and the damage amounts to $100,000. You didn't think you could anger such an important client and get away with it, did you?
Joshua sat with his head down, his face pale. Rachel, who had been expecting news of Joshua's promotion today, listened in shock.
Wait, what are you talking about? An incident? Today isn't about Joshua's promotion?
Rachel bombarded me with questions, clearly confused. I turned to her and explained what Joshua had done at the company.
Promotion? There's no way that would be discussed at home. If it were a promotion, it would be handled at the office. Coming to the house to talk means it's bad news. Joshua was disrespectful to a major client. The entire company was busy handling the fallout on Friday. Do you have any idea how it felt for me to apologize to everyone? And it's not just that. He also created fake contracts to overcharge new clients. After all this, did you really think he could get away with it?
Joshua trembled at my words. Rachel looked stunned, clearly not expecting to hear such things from me. Even Cody, despite being in elementary school, seemed to grasp that Joshua had done something wrong at work. "Dad, is it true?" Cody asked, seeking confirmation.
It's true. But listen, I had no choice. Those people treated me like a newbie and mocked me. They said, "We'll consider buying it once we understand the product better." I worked so hard on that presentation, and they rejected it. I got frustrated. It's their fault, not mine.
Joshua shouted, blaming the client he had insulted. Joshua was supposed to have apologized to the client on Friday. If he thought like this, his apology must have been insincere. His behavior made me feel sick. The client had shown no signs of mocking him for being a newcomer. Clients rarely buy unnecessary products. If Joshua had been more skilled in sales, he might have convinced them to buy something they didn't need at the moment. But Joshua lacked that ability. The client simply rejected his pitch, and he responded disrespectfully, making it natural for them to question his character.
As long as you blame others, you're just shifting responsibility. We can't trust someone like that with any job at our company. And forging contracts to embezzle money is absolutely unforgivable. You're 100% at fault here. Didn't you know that tampering with company funds would get you fired? The working world isn't that lenient,
I said calmly, delivering Joshua's termination. Joshua's face turned even paler as he gasped in disbelief.
No way!
He cried out.
Please! Don't fire me! If I leave ABC Corporation now, I'll have to find another job. Please, don't do this!
Joshua begged me. But his irresponsible attitude didn't sway my feelings.
It's out of the question. If I don't fire you, it sets a bad example for the other employees and clients. No matter what you say, I won't change my mind.
Realizing there was no room for argument, Joshua slumped down in despair. Seeing my resolute decision, Rachel also looked frightened and flustered. Eventually grasping the gravity of the situation, Rachel stepped forward and spoke to me.
Hey, Elizabeth, isn't there something you can do? I'm struggling here. Joshua keeps quitting jobs, and it's always me who suffers. If you're going to fire Joshua, you need to find him another job. Otherwise, I'll lose my allowance again. I'm sick of this. Please, do something.
Rachel's tearful plea was filled with self-centered concerns rather than genuine worry for Joshua. She was more afraid of how his job loss would affect her. I had plenty to say to Rachel, who had such a naive outlook.
Rachel, you've been calling me old hag all this time, and now you suddenly call me Elizabeth? The hypocrisy makes me sick. You're complaining about Joshua switching jobs, but have you ever fulfilled your own responsibilities? You're a housewife who doesn't do any housework. You just order me around, always looking down on me and criticizing everything I do. You said you'd lose your allowance, but why don't you go out and work? Cody is already in elementary school, so you have free time while he's at school, right? If you can't handle housework, why don't you work and support Joshua? You've probably only ever thought about yourself. I don't want to live with someone like you anymore,
I declared firmly to Rachel. She looked back at me, her face as pale as Joshua's.
That's not true. I do care about Joshua. He said he likes working, so I decided to stay home and support him.
Rachel blurted out a defense she must have hastily concocted. Joshua looked at her in surprise.
When did I ever say I like working? What? But you always start a new job right after quitting one. Doesn't that mean you like working?
Rachel's reasoning was convoluted, and Joshua responded with a sigh, holding his forehead.
That's because if I don't work, we'll be out on the street. Of course, I don't want to work. I envy you. You get to laze around the house all day, not doing any housework. I had to hire a maid with the money I earned. But it got harder to afford even that, so I suggested we move in with Mom. You had no idea about our situation, did you? We're practically poor. If you worked even a little, you'd have more spending money. That's...
As Joshua said, Rachel was trying to take it easy while making Joshua work. She didn't even realize how little money Joshua was bringing in. Naturally, with Joshua quitting every job within a few years, his salary would remain low. While Joshua's inability to hold a job was his own fault, Rachel's refusal to work was pure laziness.
Do you understand now how selfish you've been? Ever since you moved in, my stress levels have been through the roof. I'm done cooking for you. Leave this house immediately.
My calm but resolute tone seemed to sink in, and Joshua and Rachel screamed in despair. Let's go.
What will we do if we leave here?
Rent a cheap apartment, I guess. They imagined their future, turning pale.
I don't want to live in an old house.
Stop complaining and get out. Joshua pulled Rachel and Cody, who resisted, out of my house. He realized that further angering me, the chairwoman of ABC Corporation, would only bring more trouble. It was a wise decision. I could hear Rachel and Joshua arguing outside the front door, but I ignored it all. I am done living with my son's family. Once, I had tried to get Joshua a job at ABC Corporation, but I no longer want to do such things. Alone in the now empty room, I took a breath. From now on, I want to spend time solely for myself. I hadn't been able to visit William lately, so I decided to go see him tomorrow. Released from this turmoil, I was completely exhausted. The next day, I successfully managed to fire Joshua, and he left ABC Corporation. I apologized to all the employees for the trouble caused by Joshua, who had been with the company for only a short time, and I somehow managed to calm everyone's anger. Since then, there have been no problems at the company, and busy days have continued. Joshua, who lost his job, started looking for another one again, but no company was willing to hire him after seeing his record of being dismissed for disciplinary reasons from his previous job. Even after a year of job hunting, he couldn't find any results, and eventually, he ended up taking a part-time job at a moving company. Although it's a part-time job, moving work is mostly physical labor, and Joshua is being worked hard. He's not very strong, so he probably uses up all his energy every day, working until he's completely exhausted. Considering the misdeeds he committed while working at ABC Corporation, it's still fortunate that he has a job at all. As for Rachel, Joshua's part-time job didn't bring in enough income, so she had to start working too. Rachel, who had no experience as a working adult or even a part-time job, initially worked in customer service, but she was repeatedly fired due to her poor attitude toward customers. The job she finally landed was as a cleaner, where she had to do all the cleaning she had previously avoided. Given that Rachel didn't do any cleaning at home, she's probably suffering from back pain now. I hope she experiences the hardships of cleaning and reflects on how she used to treat me. With Joshua's family falling into such a state, Cody could no longer get toys and games as before. Now, he envies his friends who have the latest game consoles. Joshua, Rachel, and Cody should reflect on how their misdeeds towards others have come back to them. As for me, I've returned to the comfortable life of living alone, feeling like I've gone from hell back to heaven. At ABC Corporation, the employees greatly appreciated that I had the courage to let Joshua go and handled all the trouble he caused. Although it was my fault for bringing Joshua into the company in the first place, many people praised me for resolving the issue personally. Thanks to that, I can continue working comfortably as before, which is a relief. Recently, I've picked up gardening as a hobby and have been growing vegetables in the yard. I've secured some enjoyment for my old age, and I also enjoy meeting and talking with William from time to time. From now on, I want to spend my days peacefully. As my son Kevin's cries echoed through the room, I caught the sneering words of my brother Austin's wife, Victoria.
You know, you're the same age as my mom. It would be better if at least you looked normal. Poor Kevin, having such an ugly and pitiful mom.
Victoria, who looked down on me, was trying to make my parents' home her own. I won't let that happen. My name is Allison. I miraculously got pregnant and gave birth at 45, becoming a single mother. Because it was a late pregnancy and I was unmarried, my family and I decided that I would raise my child at my parents' home. Kevin's dad disappeared without knowing about my pregnancy, and that event left me deeply wounded both mentally and physically, causing me to quit my job. Now, I live happily with my mom, who still works part-time even in her 70s, and my energetic one-year-old son Kevin. By the way, my dad passed away 5 years ago. I have a younger brother named Austin, who is 12 years younger than me. Although he's an adult now, he's still my adorable little brother, working for an airline and living on his own. Sometimes I wish he would bring home a girlfriend. One day, while I was talking with Mom about this, Austin came home with surprising news. I'm getting married.
What?
We were astonished by Austin's sudden announcement.
When did this happen?
It's a long story. Austin began to tell us the details. His girlfriend, Victoria, was a 20-year-old woman. They met at a party and hit it off immediately. She approached him, and a month later, they started dating, meeting up for dates between his work shifts. Victoria had been a model featured in magazines since her school days, and after graduating high school, she worked in retail.
So, how long have you been dating?
Almost 6 months. Only 6 months?
Austin, being serious and sensible. Deciding to marry someone with such an age difference in just half a year seemed unbelievable to me, and I couldn't help but raise my voice.
I wasn't planning to get married so soon. I am serious about Victoria, but she's still young, and we haven't known each other that long. I thought we'd be dating for at least another year, but then Victoria sent me this.
What is it? Wait a second. Allison, your phone screen is bigger and clearer, so I'll send it to you. Austin sent an ultrasound image labeled "Here's the baby."
How could you do this before getting married?
Mom's anger made Austin lower his eyes. It was only right for Austin to take responsibility and marry Victoria. But I couldn't help but ask quietly.
You didn't get her pregnant on purpose, right?
Of course not. But, as a guy, I guess it's my fault. I feel really bad for her.
I gently patted Austin's shoulder as he gave a weak smile. Within a month, Austin got married. Victoria, who was young, cute, hardworking, and skillfully affectionate, brought immense joy to Mom, as if she had gained another grandchild. They planned to have the wedding before Victoria's belly showed, choosing a venue close to our home, and frequently visited us for wedding preparations. To Mom, Austin seemed special, and she looked incredibly happy whenever Austin and Victoria visited.
Your cooking is so delicious, I could eat it every day.
Since hearing that, I started eagerly cooking whenever I knew Austin and Victoria were coming over. Austin and Victoria seem happy, and Mom dotes on them. I should be happy to have new family members too, but honestly, I can't feel that joy. Because it seems like she looks down on me. When Austin or Mom is around, she talks normally, but when it's just the two of us, she barely speaks and treats me with contempt. I genuinely want to get along with her. I don't remember doing anything to deserve being looked down on, but if I had to guess, it's probably because of my appearance. I sighed at my asymmetric, distorted face in the mirror and turned it face down on the table. Even with makeup, my face isn't exactly beautiful. It's not a pleasant feeling, but such childish thoughts aren't unheard of for a woman in her 20s, and I kept telling myself that as long as Austin is happy, it's fine. Then one day, as Austin and Victoria's wedding approached, they came over as usual.
We're home. Welcome back, Austin. And Victoria, too.
Hello. Here, I brought you this.
Oh, it's a cake from that famous shop. I'm so happy. Let's have it together later. Come on in.
Yes.
I could hear Victoria's excited voice and light footsteps approaching from the entrance. As I was about to leave the room and go to the room next to the living room where Kevin was sleeping, the door opened, and I made eye contact with Victoria.
Welcome.
She completely ignored me. As if she didn't hear me, Victoria quickly walked past me and sat on the sofa. This is how she acts when Austin and Mom aren't looking. I knew it, but it still hurt. Rubbing my strained smile, I entered the room and closed the door. Next door, I could hear Austin, Victoria, and Mom chatting happily.
Victoria is here, so you should join us.
Hearing Mom's voice through the door, I put my hand on the door but immediately lowered it and said, "Sorry. If I go now, Kevin will get upset, so I can't."
Really? I'll always be here to take over if you need.
Thank you.
Lying down next to the quietly sleeping Kevin, I sighed softly. I'm sorry for lying, Mom. But I don't want to force myself to smile more than necessary. She only knows Victoria's friendly side. She knows we don't get along, but that's it. Austin doesn't know either. Even so, I act normal when the three of us are together, and Victoria doesn't mistreat Kevin. They are happy, so I tried to ignore the pain stabbing my heart. I must have fallen asleep because I woke up to Kevin's crying. I heard the front door open in the distance. Thinking they had finally left, I slowly got up and went to make Kevin's milk, only to be surprised.
Good morning, Allison.
There was Victoria, sitting with a smile that didn't reach her eyes.
Where's Austin?
Austin was called by an old friend and went to see them after a long time.
So, the door I heard earlier was his. I left Kevin, who was crying, with Mom and went to the kitchen to prepare some milk. While I was doing that, soothing Kevin, said to Victoria,
"It might be an all-night thing, so why don't you stay over?"
What? Really? Mom's unexpected suggestion almost made me drop the baby bottle. Stay over?
Mom, she doesn't have any change of clothes or anything. It's too sudden, it would be inconvenient.
It's fine. You can buy some underwear at the nearby supermarket, and it's just for the night, so she can borrow something to sleep in. I'll wash what she's wearing now so she can wear it again tomorrow.
Thank you. I'll take you up on that offer. Thank you, Allison.
I was stunned by the tone of her voice, which sounded almost like she was adding a heart at the end. What was that cold attitude from earlier about? It felt like she was a completely different person. Honestly, it felt uncomfortable having someone in the house who had ill will towards me, but as long as we didn't end up alone together, I could manage. I made up my mind to endure it. As dinner began in a calm atmosphere, Mom was considerate towards Victoria. Your belly isn't showing yet, Victoria.
Maybe because you're slim,
the baby might be small too?
Maybe.
If you're not having morning sickness, you need to eat well. Make sure to get enough nutrients before you go home. Victoria happily accepted Mom's hospitality while I felt like I was invisible. There were no particular problems, and soon it was time to get ready for bed. Austin still wasn't home. I sighed as I looked at the pink high heels by the front door. Normally, Austin's sneakers would be next to them, or neither would be there at all. After that, Victoria had gone shopping at the supermarket's clothing section and was now taking a bath. Mom had asked me to prepare the guest room upstairs. It used to be Austin's room, but it had turned into a storage room, so it needed some cleaning and the bed had to be made. I turned on the air conditioner and quickly tidied up, then made the bed. Why do I have to do this? Swallowing my frustration, I turned to head back to the living room.
Huh?
I let out a strange noise. Victoria was standing in the doorway, glaring at me. My heart pounded in surprise as I addressed her.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
I heard you were made to prepare the bedroom, so I came to say I could do it myself.
She is nice to Mom, right?
I see. It's okay, I'm done already.
As I tried to leave the room, Victoria stood blocking the door. I had no idea what she wanted, and as I grew confused, she glared at me and then sneered.
Allison, you can be summed up in 3 words.
What?
Fat, ugly, and lame. That's the 3 words.
I was speechless at her sudden insult. I never expected to be directly called childish names. It's true I've gained 22 pounds, my face isn't symmetrical compared to most women, and I stay in pajamas all day because I don't go out.
I have something to talk about, so could you come in for a moment?
Ignoring my confusion, Victoria pushed me into the room. She locked the door and turned to face me, leaning against it.
I always dreamed of getting married.
What?
I hate studying, and I don't want to work.
So I wanted to catch a man with a decent amount of money to have a stable life and become a relaxed and free housewife.
Suddenly, Victoria started talking about herself, leaving me stunned and unsure of what to make of it all. Ignoring my reaction, Victoria continued her monologue.
Austin may be a bit older, but he's a pilot for a major airline, looks decent, and has a good personality. Plus, his parents' house is in a prime downtown location, which is just perfect.
Wait, what does that mean?
But Austin's mom is a given, and the real problem is you. It's impossible for me to become family with someone so ugly. How about getting some plastic surgery? Everyone's doing it these days.
What?
And how about going on a diet? You're getting ugly because you're still living at your parents' house. Aren't you embarrassed?
Her well-formed lips spat out these belittling words, causing anger to bubble up inside me.
What? Are you marrying him just for our money?
I raised my voice in frustration, but she just laughed.
Why are you getting so worked up? It's hilarious. I'm just seeking stability in exchange for letting him marry a young and beautiful woman like me.
This woman is dangerous. If things continue like this, she'll take over the house, and Austin's money will be squandered. Alarm bells rang in my head.
Thanks for letting me know. I'll tell Austin about your true nature. Break up with him.
He wouldn't believe you without any proof. The wedding is soon. It's too late to do anything about it, and I won't let you.
If only my eyes or ears had a recording function. Victoria continued, with a malicious smile.
Okay, let me get straight to the point. After we settle down with kids, we plan to move into this house, so could you please move out?
What? You can't just decide that on your own.
It's not on my own. I've already discussed it with Austin and his mom. They both agreed it's fine, so all you need to do is give the okay.
This is my house.
It's just your parents' house, right? Eventually, it will be Austin's anyway, so it's just a matter of time. Go ahead and clear out your room. Consider it a compromise in place of a wedding gift.
I was speechless at her selfish and one-sided words. Victoria continued with a nasty grin.
Besides, I think it's about time you became independent. Austin is a pilot, and you're still leeching off your parents' house. Isn't that embarrassing?
Leeching.
I'm actually. A proper person wouldn't stay home all day?
Point made. Her condescending attitude irritated me.
You don't know anything about me, so stop talking like you do.
Well, I don't want to know, and I'm not interested. You're a single mother because you were dumped for being ugly, right? I don't even need to ask to know that much.
It's so sad. I could feel the heat of anger rising to my face. Just as I was about to yell at her, I heard Kevin crying from downstairs, which brought me back to reality. Victoria opened the door.
Kevin is crying. Aren't you going to check on him?
She said, nodding towards the door, and went downstairs by herself. I didn't want to go back to the room with this woman. Hesitating at the top of the stairs as Kevin's cries echoed, Victoria's mocking words reached my ears.
By the way, you're the same age as my mom, right?
I looked at her, and she was hiding her smirk behind her hand while looking up at me.
If at least you looked good. Poor Kevin, having an ugly and shabby mother.
That one remark pushed me to my limit. I instinctively chased after her, raising my hand, just as the door to the living room opened and Mom appeared, holding Kevin.
What are you doing?
Mom. I'm sorry. It's my fault. I misspoke. I said that Allison and my mom are the same age.
Victoria raised her voice, trying to cover mine. Then she quickly turned to me and lowered her head.
I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable.
What?
As I stood there in shock at her sudden change in attitude, Mom gently patted Victoria's shoulder and said,
Keep such thoughts to yourself. It's fine because we're family, but if you say it to others, it could cause irreparable harm.
Yes, I'll be careful.
Allison, Victoria is apologizing, so you should forgive her. Raising your hand is out of the question.
Wait, Mom.
This ends the discussion. Now, go hold Kevin.
Mom handed the crying Kevin to me and then gently led Victoria back to the living room. I stood in the dim hallway, holding the sobbing Kevin, feeling helpless. While putting Kevin to sleep in the room, I noticed Austin had come home. Hearing the three of them happily chatting, tears welled up in my eyes. Even though I'm being ridiculed, my family is being ridiculed, and Kevin is being ridiculed, I can easily imagine that my words would be dismissed as paranoid by that two-faced person. Until now, it was just a facade, but to say such things to my face. She's really trying to take over this house. Knowing Victoria. She won't take care of Mom, and one day she might even abandon Austin. The thought of our family falling apart scared me. I won't let that happen. I'm not the kind of person who would back down. If she thinks everything will go her way, she's terribly mistaken. With renewed determination, I gripped my phone, ready to protect my family. And on a certain day, I found myself at a wedding venue with Mom. After that incident, Victoria kept insisting that I shouldn't attend the wedding and should claim to be sick, but when I told her that a former nurse like Mom wouldn't believe it, she looked frustrated.
Fine, you can come, but don't blame me if you embarrass yourself.
And said. I didn't understand what she meant, but it's clear that Victoria holds ill will only towards me. The wedding was hastily arranged, so the guests were just relatives and family. She's probably planning to win everyone over today, except for me. The wedding proceeded smoothly, and finally, it was time for the letter to the family. With tears in her eyes, Victoria began to read the letter.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending our wedding today despite your busy schedules.
Even those tears seemed fake to me. It's a joyous wedding. For Austin's sake, I decided to endure and focused on taking care of Kevin.
Thank you for accepting our marriage. Allison seems to be enjoying her moratorium, but from now on, I will repay your kindness as your daughter.
So this is what she meant by embarrassing. Sure, it might be shameful for an outsider to see someone my age not working. Of course, that's if it were true. When Victoria finished reading her letter, there was a noticeable stir among our guests instead of the expected emotional response. Austin was also surprised.
What? What's going on?
Austin asked frantically, seeing Victoria's puzzled smile. Victoria, aren't you mistaken? Allison worked as a flight attendant in the same company as me until just 2 years ago.
What?
Not only did she not have a moratorium period, but she was already working and even paying for my tuition when I was just a kid.
No way! But with that appearance.
Victoria pointed at me, visibly shaking. I shrugged my shoulders.
Listen, Allison had an accident and got injured. She couldn't interact with customers as a crew member with that face, so she had no choice but to quit being a flight attendant.
No! I didn't know that.
Didn't know? When I tried to talk about Allison, you said you heard it directly from her the last time we met, and that was enough.
It's no wonder Victoria didn't know. She never even tried to listen to me. Everything Austin is saying is true. 2 years ago, my boyfriend and I were involved in a car accident. He passed away, and although I survived, I suffered severe facial injuries that couldn't be fully corrected with plastic surgery. At the same time, I found out I was pregnant with his child. That's Kevin.
But she's unemployed now.
What are you talking about?
Allison has hardly ever been unemployed. What?
After quitting as a flight attendant, she's been working from home as a translator to support Kevin and Mom. What did you even hear from Allison, Victoria?
Austin firmly told Victoria, who was trying to justify herself. As Victoria was at a loss for words, the host took the microphone and smiled.
What a wonderful family. Their presence will surely support the couple's future. Now, let's proceed with the reading of the letters.
With the host's half-forced words, the reception continued somehow. Victoria looked dissatisfied and didn't even manage a polite smile while seeing off the guests. On the way back home after the wedding, Mom couldn't hide her confusion about Victoria's true nature and seemed somewhat depressed. Shortly after arriving home, Austin called.
Victoria wants to have an important talk. But I think you're tired, so we don't have to force it. I have something to talk to her about too.
Austin's tone was low. He, like Mom, had glimpsed Victoria's true nature.
If she wants to come, let her. I have something to talk about too.
I took Austin and Victoria's proposal instead of Mom, who didn't have the energy to answer the phone. It worked out well. A while later, when Austin and Victoria arrived, Victoria grabbed my arm as soon as we were alone and dragged me to a secluded spot.
How dare you humiliate me, you ugly cow! I tried to talk to you many times, but you didn't listen.
Then, Victoria grabbed my collar and yelled.
Shut up! You ruined my perfect wedding, and I won't forgive you.
You're the one who caused the mess, to begin with.
Frankly, no decent adult would intentionally embarrass a family member at such a joyous event. Her behavior was so childish that I couldn't help but be amazed. I sighed involuntarily, and she angrily pushed me away.
Once I get this house, you'll be the first to go. You will going to be his servant.
After mocking me, Victoria returned to the living room. I coughed a few times, rubbed my back where I had hit the wall, and checked my mobile phone in my pocket. Because of the trouble at the reception, the atmosphere was somewhat awkward, and our discussion started with just the four of us. When she began to drink, Victoria spoke up.
Allison, I'm sorry for what happened at the reception. I've been so busy with wedding preparations that I didn't realize how weird my words sounded. But I truly want to repay you.
So, what's this talk about? When I asked, Victoria hesitated for a moment and then forced a cheerful smile.
You said you wanted to return the favor. Now that the wedding is over, why don't we think about living together? Well, Allison.
That's not an issue. She told me to take care of Mom in her place. Right, Allison?
Victoria spoke in a domineering tone, cutting off Mom's voice. Of course, Mom hadn't said a word about that. I sighed and quickly took out my mobile phone. Putting it on speaker, I played a certain recording at full volume.
How dare you humiliate me, you ugly cow!
Victoria's angry shout echoed through the room, silencing everyone. The recording revealed Victoria's true nature, leaving Austin pale with shock.
When did you?
I had prepared the mobile phone recorder just in case, to capture any evidence.
What is the meaning of this? Well, this is…
Victoria, panicking under Austin's glare, darted her eyes around the room. I smiled and said,
Let me tell you something. There's no way this house will ever be yours.
Why? Austin is the heir.
Because the house is in my name.
What?
Mom is getting older, and since I don't have any plans to get married, she transferred it to me as a gift.
Then what about the inheritance?
That's none of your business. We've got that covered. But seriously, as soon as you find out the house is mine, you start talking about inheritance?
Mom is still healthy, you know. Her true colors started to show. Under Austin's cold stare, she tried to compose herself by rubbing her belly.
What? You're going to believe Allison over me? I'm pregnant. You should be mad at Allison for stressing me out.
Enough. Aren't you ashamed of lying just to save yourself?
Shut up. Austin has a duty to make me happy. He always has to put me first.
Austin, at a loss for words, hung his head. Victoria was clearly trying to manipulate him into feeling guilty and complying with her demands. The last bit of restraint I had left snapped.
If that's how you want to play it, I won't hold back.
I pulled out a clear file from my favorite bag and slapped 2 images down.
What is this?
Austin and Mom were speechless. Victoria turned pale.
No morning sickness, your belly isn't showing, and you're still wearing high heels. I found it suspicious. I checked the ultrasound images Austin gave me and confirmed it.
The images were enlarged copies of 2 identical ultrasound photos, except one had a message written over the date.
The exact same ultrasound image you sent to Austin was on a website. The one I found was dated 5 years ago.
I continued, pressing the shaken Victoria.
You're not pregnant, are you?
Victoria was stunned, clearly shaken. You thought it through.
People wouldn't notice the details just because it's an ultrasound photo. You even covered the date with a message.
Finding that exact image online was a gamble. With the help of friends I made during my flight attendant days, I managed to locate it.
If you still want to make excuses, go get tested at the hospital with Austin.
With a twisted expression, biting her lip and glaring at me, Victoria spat out.
I'm leaving. Goodbye. Forever, goodbye.
She stormed past me, marching straight to the door. Austin sighed deeply, bowed his head, and dashed out after her. At that moment, Kevin, who had been sleeping quietly in the room, began to cry. I picked him up and gently kissed his cheek. Mom slowly stood up, looked at me, and smiled.
Shall I make some milk?
I nodded and followed Mom to the kitchen, still holding Kevin. The usual calm atmosphere returned, as if the earlier chaos had never happened. Not even a month after the wedding, Austin and Victoria divorced. According to Austin, they had gone to the hospital with a sliver of hope, only to be told that despite it being her first visit, Victoria's pregnancy test was positive. Moreover, it was confirmed she was in the early stages of pregnancy. Since hearing about the pregnancy, Austin had refrained from any intimate relations out of concern for Victoria's health. So, what did this mean? Apparently, Victoria had been having an affair behind Austin's back and was carrying the child of her lover. Austin hired a detective, quickly gathering evidence of Victoria's infidelity, and demanded compensation in the divorce court. To make matters worse, Victoria's lover was someone who worked at a club, and he abandoned her as soon as the compensation claim was made. Victoria tearfully begged Austin to take her back, but Austin, fed up with her lies, flatly refused. At just 20 years old, Victoria couldn't possibly pay the hefty compensation, so she turned to her parents, who covered the costs. She was scolded severely and brought back home. Ironically, she became the single mother living with her parents she had once scorned. Young and now the subject of scrutiny, she would have to work and raise her child. Well, it was her own doing. I just hope that the innocent child can be raised well by the in-laws. 2 years later, Austin reconnected with an old friend at a reunion and decided to remarry. Given what happened with Victoria, both Mom and I were initially cautious, but the new woman was kind-hearted and genuine, and she adored Kevin. Kevin was to be the ring bearer at their wedding. Dressed in a bow tie and carrying a beautiful small box, Kevin walked down the aisle, drawing cheers from the guests. Handing the rings to Austin, he then ran back to me with a proud smile, and I picked him up gently. His eyes were just like those of the man I loved. Mom stood smiling beside me. In front of us were the happy Austin and his bride. I have no plans to remarry. But that's all right. I have my family. I will continue to do my best to ensure my loved ones always have smiles on their faces. Oh, finally it's over. It felt so long. Let's just go home. Now that Samuel, Daniel, and Kingston are gone, I don't have to take care of you anymore, right? Right after her son Kingston's funeral, my daughter-in-law Elise blurted out these unbelievable words. What was she thinking when she said something like that? In the midst of mourning their father, how could she say such a thing to the twins Samuel and Daniel?
You are the only parent these kids have left. Think carefully about what you're doing.
Huh? I'm going to remarry a handsome doctor. The old woman can raise the twins. See you. While I was still in shock, Elise said those selfish words and briskly walked away. Both the attendees and I were dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Fine. After Elise left, I quietly muttered, I'll take responsibility for Samuel and Daniel. After the chaotic funeral, I finally got home and sank into bed with a deep sigh. I had never felt a day so long and exhausting. My eyes closed naturally.
He 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 he. He 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 he.
At 2 a.m., I was awakened by eerie laughter coming from the next room. I opened the door to see two faces illuminated by the pale light of the computer screen in the darkness. There were Samuel and Daniel, who should have been mourning, laughing at something on the computer. I am Miranda. Since I lost my beloved husband 3 years ago, I have been living alone in this house. The only joy in my life now is when my adorable grandchildren come to visit me. Today is a special day because my grandsons Samuel and Daniel are coming over to play, so I have been restless since morning. Even after finishing preparing lunch, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing and kept walking around the house.
Oh. The camera.
The grandkids, who had just started elementary school recently, said they would show me their new uniforms. To capture their shining moments, I started rummaging around for the camera.
Found it. Now I'm all set.
Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I heard the sound of a car engine stopping in front of the house.
Grandma. Hello.
Hello. I heard cheerful voices coming from the entrance.
Yes, welcome.
As I ran to the entrance, I saw Samuel and Daniel standing there with brand new backpacks and spotless uniforms. Behind them were my son Kingston and my daughter-in-law Elise. Mom, we're back.
Hi Miranda, it's been a while.
Good to see you. Come on in.
I welcomed Kingston and his family and started the photo session of them in their uniforms. Seeing my grandkids with backpacks that were almost bigger than them made my heart swell with affection. It was hard to tell whether they were carrying the backpacks or the backpacks were carrying them.
Grandma, guess what? Daniel and I are in different classes.
I have a male teacher, and Samuel has a female teacher. Yes, my grandkids are twins. When my only son Kingston married Elise 8 years ago and told us they were having twins, I was thrilled to suddenly have 2 grandkids. However, when Kingston first told me about Elise, I was honestly surprised. Kingston, being gentle and serious, had always been quiet and reserved during his school years, so I never imagined he would choose someone as striking and poised as a model. Thanks to that, the twins were born with clear and attractive features. They might be considered quite good-looking. Elise seemed keen to take advantage of their looks, enrolling Samuel and Daniel in dance schools and having them audition, doing everything she could to get them into the entertainment industry. When they first started kindergarten, Samuel and Daniel didn't understand much and just went along with the dance classes and auditions they were taken to. While wondering how they were doing these days, I was in the kitchen preparing a meal with Kingston. When Elise went to the car to get something she had forgotten, Kingston started speaking secretly. Mom, actually. It seemed to be about Samuel and Daniel.
When they just started elementary school, they strongly resisted and said they didn't want to dance or be on TV anymore. For a while, their relationship with Elise wasn't good.
Apparently, when Samuel and Daniel started elementary school, they clearly expressed their opinions to Kingston and Elise. It seems that, like Kingston, both of them were not comfortable with being in the spotlight.
Elise wanted them to continue somehow, but thinking about Samuel and Daniel, she decided to stop everything. Thanks to that, we almost had a tense atmosphere between us. Now, it's fine though.
Just when I was worried about their recent situation and couldn't ask, Kingston confided in me so that Elise and the grandchildren wouldn't hear. Now, they seem to be working hard to get used to school life. While hearing a lot about school from Samuel and Daniel, we all gathered around the dining table. I was worried about their reserved personalities, but I was relieved to see that they were enjoying school. After talking for a while and filling our stomachs, seeing Samuel and Daniel leave with big smiles made me feel happy. Then, a few months later, my son's family of 4 came to visit us again.
What have Samuel and Daniel been able to do recently?
I was able to animate a picture I drew on the computer the other day.
I'm learning C language.
Sorry, I asked, but Grandma didn't understand at all. But it sounds like you're able to do amazing things.
Recently, both of them are more into using computers than sports. I am not at all knowledgeable about computers. However, from what I hear from Kingston, Samuel and Daniel's computer skills are far ahead of their peers. Kingston and I both believe that they have talent with computers and have high hopes for their future. Kingston is even looking into nearby programming classes. Compared to those boring, plain computers, being on TV would definitely make them famous and earn more money. Elise didn't seem to think much of their interest in computers. Maybe she still hadn't given up on getting them into show business. Why not let the kids do what they like? Kingston said, calming Elise.
I believe the greatest happiness is for my grandchildren to do what they love and grow up free and peacefully.
I thought while nodding. Time passed, and Samuel and Daniel became sixth graders. They were still deeply immersed in their beloved computers and had completed all the lessons in the programming class a few years ago, graduating from the class. Recently, Kingston has been on business trips often, leaving home frequently. Because of Elise's work schedule, Samuel and Daniel often come to my house to play. Dad's never home, so it's boring because we can't go out.
He promised to take us camping next holiday, but will he really take us?
Dad is busy with work. He must be holding back from wanting to play with Samuel and Daniel, so let's support him.
Samuel and Daniel seem a bit dissatisfied that they don't get to spend much time together because of Kingston's busy work schedule. Kingston had previously talked excitedly about being entrusted with a major project that the company was staking its future on. That project is finally starting, and he is working hard with his colleagues. That being said, recently, not only during the day but also overnight, I've been looking after Samuel and Daniel. At first, I welcomed them gladly, thinking it would be a nice break for Elise, who is juggling work and raising kids mostly by herself. However, now Elise is staying out every time Kingston is on a business trip. I love spending time with my grandkids more than anything, but it feels like it's happening quite often. Even though they are sixth graders and shouldn't require that much attention, I wonder if Elise finds it challenging.
Miranda, I'm sorry, but can you take care of them today as well?
Elise quickly left after dropping them off. Samuel and Daniel were staying over again today. Oh no! I forgot my cold medicine.
So you're feeling a bit under the weather, huh? That's a problem. Elise just left, so let's call her and ask her to bring it.
I dialed Elise's number. It rang several times, but she didn't pick up. Finally, the automated voice said, "The number you have dialed is either turned off or out of the service area." Elise didn't answer the phone.
Elise didn't answer. What should we do about your medicine? I hope you don't get worse.
Oh, you know, Mom, she turns off her phone for important meetings. Samuel's words made me question.
What? So during important meetings, you can't reach her at all?
Yeah, whenever we call, it doesn't go through. But my cold isn't that bad, Grandma. I'll be fine. Compared to my worry, the kids seemed unfazed. Even if she has important meetings, what would happen if there was an emergency involving the kids? They've been safe so far, but isn't this bordering on neglect? I felt sorry for Samuel and Daniel, who seemed neglected by their mom, and a bit of resentment began to grow. The next evening, when Elise came to pick them up, I asked her,
Elise, Daniel forgot his medicine, so I called you shortly after you left, but was it difficult to answer the phone?
Oh, sorry about that. I turned off my phone, didn't the kids tell you?
Elise replied nonchalantly, as if it was the most natural thing.
I see, but there might be emergencies, so maybe you should keep your phone on.
I didn't have the energy to scold Elise any further and didn't say anything more. Even after that, Samuel and Daniel came to stay a few more times. Every time I had a reason to call Elise, she never answered. One afternoon, I got a call. An unknown number. I hesitantly answered, and an anxious male voice spoke.
Hello, is this Kingston's mother? I'm his colleague. Sorry to call suddenly, but please stay calm. Kingston is in the hospital.
It took me a moment to process what I was hearing. Panic surged through me. I got the hospital's location from his colleague and quickly called a taxi. On the way, I couldn't calm down, worrying about Kingston's condition. What could have happened to Kingston to land him in the hospital? Is he going to be okay? Maybe Elise knows something. I tried calling Elise, hoping she would answer, but all I got was the long ringing tone. Then the automated message.
The number you have dialed is.
Why can't I reach Elise at a time like this? I keep calling her over and over, praying she'll pick up, but the result is always the same. All the way to the hospital, I tried to get in touch with her, but she never answered. When I arrived at the hospital, a teary-eyed colleague greeted me and explained the situation. Kingston had suddenly collapsed at work and was rushed to the hospital. They provided the necessary treatment, but his condition was critical, and he still hadn't regained consciousness. I called his wife, but she didn't answer any of my calls. So, I contacted you, Mrs. Scott. Thank you for coming so quickly. Elise hadn't answered the phone after all. It seems Kingston had been suffering from insomnia lately and looked unwell, and his coworkers had been worried about him. Had he been working so hard that he couldn't sleep, or had he been pushing himself too much? I regretted Kingston's earnest nature. I decided I needed to inform Elise of the situation and headed to Kingston's house. Worried about Kingston's condition, I reluctantly left the hospital. When I arrived at Kingston's house, I found Samuel and Daniel home from school and waiting alone.
Grandma, what's going on?
You're home already. Hasn't Elise come back yet?
No, not yet. Are you going to wait here? I wondered how I should tell Samuel and Daniel about Kingston. Was it even my place to say anything? I decided to wait until Elise came back so I could explain everything to all three of them together. After a while, Elise came home.
Elise! Have you checked your mobile phone? I've been calling you a lot.
Elise rummaged through her bag and took out her mobile phone.
Miranda, what's going on all of a sudden? Oh, you're right. I have a lot of missed calls. Did something happen?
Feeling frustrated by Elise's attitude, I took a deep breath and began to speak. Elise, Samuel, Daniel, please listen calmly. Kingston collapsed at work today and is now in the hospital. The doctors have done everything they can, but he still hasn't regained consciousness. Samuel and Daniel seemed frozen with shock, their faces filled with confusion. Meanwhile, Elise just said,
What?
Without any change in her expression, still fiddling with her mobile phone. I had expected her to be more shocked and worried, but her reaction was completely different from what I had imagined, and I was taken aback. My bewilderment was lost on Elise, who was engrossed in her mobile phone. And so, the days went by. My prayers for Kingston to wake up went unanswered, and he never regained consciousness. The doctor told us there was no hope of him waking up, and we had to prepare for the worst. A few days later, Kingston's funeral was held. Samuel and Daniel were silent, their heads down, crying the entire time. Even though they're trying to be strong, they're still only in 6th grade. Having lost their beloved dad, they must be drowning in grief. All I could do was stay close to them and gently rub their backs. Elise, on the other hand, seemed completely indifferent to the boys' feelings, sitting with a weary look and offering curt nods to the attendees. Many of Kingston's colleagues, subordinates, and even superiors attended the funeral. Everyone was mourning Kingston's loss, some looking utterly devastated, others openly weeping. Seeing how much my son meant to his company filled my heart with pride. But there was something strange. After the wake yesterday, I overheard some coworkers talking as they left, and what they said bothered me.
Just when the project was finally on track and things were settling down, why did he have to go so suddenly?
He hadn't had any overtime lately, but he did look really worn out. He said he couldn't sleep. What was bothering him so much? This conversation stuck in my mind, and it kept circling around in my head. I thought it was because of overwork and stress from his busy job. But the people at his company didn't say anything like that. In fact, it seemed like work was pretty calm, and they were worried about Kingston's recent behavior. If he was troubled to the point of insomnia, there must have been something other than work causing it. With these questions in mind, I reached the end of the funeral. Finally, it's over.
It felt so long.
Let's get out of here.
Samuel, Daniel, and Kingston are all gone, so I don't have to take care of you anymore, right?
Elise said this with a sneer as the funeral ended. I couldn't believe she would say something like that with such an expression. What was she thinking when she said those words? To say such a thing to Samuel and Daniel, who were in the middle of mourning their dad, was beyond comprehension. I thought it must be some kind of mistake and asked her again.
Elise, what are you suddenly talking about?
Having these kids around is just a nuisance. I don't need them.
How can you say that? You're the only parent they have left. Think carefully about it.
I tried my best to calm Elise down, thinking it was just a moment of confusion. Think about it?
This is the best thing that could happen. Now I can live with my darling.
Darling? What do you mean, Elise?
I'm marrying a handsome doctor.
Let the old woman take care of the twins. Bye.
As I stood there confused, Elise spat out these selfish lines and briskly walked away. Both I and the other attendees were dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Fine. After Elise left, I quietly muttered to myself, I'll take responsibility for Samuel and Daniel. It's better for them to live with me than to grow up feeling abandoned and sad because their mom left them. Besides, how wonderful it is to live with such adorable grandchildren. As I made up my mind, Samuel spoke up. Grandma, can we live with you?
Of course you can.
Samuel smiled with relief.
It's better to be with Grandma than with Mom.
Mom's never home anyway. I don't think she cares about us. Daniel's words broke my heart. How dare you let a child say something like this? How could Elise be so indifferent to them? We stopped by Kingston's house, packed up some essentials with Samuel and Daniel, and finally made it home. After dinner, Samuel and Daniel seemed tired and didn't talk much, looking sleepy. They must have been exhausted both physically and emotionally today. Not only did they say goodbye to their dad, but their mom also walked out on them. I wondered if Samuel and Daniel were okay mentally. Both of them seem calm, as if they've accepted the sudden event, but I'm terribly worried about what they're feeling inside. Rather than saying anything more, I guess I'll just have to watch over them for a while.
Both of you must be exhausted today. I'll make your beds, so take your time and rest.
Once I'm done cleaning up, I'll go to bed early too. While I was doing the chores, Samuel and Daniel were no longer in the living room. They must have taken their showers and gone back to their rooms. I finally got into bed and let out a big sigh. Suddenly, today's events flashed before my eyes like a slideshow of memories. Is Elise really planning to give up the children? It was late at night, but I wanted to confirm my feelings once more, so I called Elise.
The number you have dialed.
I hoped she would answer, but the familiar automated message played. I haven't felt a day drag on this long in a while. I was utterly exhausted. My eyes naturally started to close.
He 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 he. He 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 he.
At 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of laughter coming from the next room. I thought it might be my imagination, but the laughter continued. Samuel and Daniel were supposed to be sleeping in the next room. Thinking they should be asleep, I decided to quietly check on them. When I opened the door, there were two faces illuminated by the blue glow of a screen in the darkness. Samuel and Daniel, who I thought were asleep, were watching something on the computer and laughing.
What are you doing up so late?
Oh, Grandma. Did we wake you? Sorry.
Yeah, Grandma, come take a look at this. Following their lead, I peeked at the computer screen.
Elise? Darling? Whose messages are these? Could it be?
Yeah, that's right. These are messages between Mom and her partner. Displayed on the computer screen was a message history between Elise and who seemed to be her partner. Grandma, you probably have the same notifications on your phone right now. So, I went to get my phone and check. Sure enough, there were notifications. When I opened them, I saw the same message history as on the computer screen.
How did you do this? Was it you too?
Samuel and Daniel answered proudly.
Yeah, we did it.
By now, everyone in Mom's contacts should have received the images.
What? What do you mean?
I asked them to explain the situation because I couldn't understand. I think Dad collapsed because of Mom. Apparently, Kingston had been suspicious of Elise, who had been staying out a lot recently. Kingston had been questioning Elise about where she was and what she was doing, but she always brushed him off, which Samuel had overheard. Maybe because we're still kids. Even though Dad was definitely troubled, he didn't say anything to us. Kingston had been worried about Elise's frequent absences and the fact that she always left the kids with me.
Sometimes when I was sleeping with Dad, I would wake up to hear him groaning in pain.
He probably couldn't sleep well because he was so distressed. Somehow, the kids had sensed Dad's stress and his inability to sleep.
But the old men at the funeral kept saying it was because he was overworked. It was definitely Mom's fault.
Samuel said this with a bitter expression.
You wouldn't believe what a child says, so I couldn't tell you at the funeral that it was Mom's fault.
So, I decided to show everyone the evidence after the funeral, and I used Mom's cell phone to program it.
No matter how much they pleaded about Dad's collapse, the adults wouldn't believe them. Moreover, whenever they tried to talk about it, Elise would stop them. It was surprising that they would expose it this way, even though they were good with computers. They spoke with such a clear and refreshed expression that it made me feel a sense of admiration. Still, it was curious how they managed to manipulate Elise's cell phone when they weren't home much. So, I asked. Mom is bad with cell phones and computers. So, we did all the settings for her. That's when we memorized all the passwords.
We also looked at the messages and found out who Mom was always with. When she was with Darling, she would always turn off her phone. So, we made it so that information would be sent when she turned it off.
So now that the pictures are being sent, it means the phone is off. Look, all the evidence we prepared is being sent. I checked the notifications on my cell phone.
The kids are going to Grandma's, so I'll be with you, Darling, today and tomorrow too. You Darling is handsome and competent, but my husband on other hand, despite working seriously, his salary is low. It's incomparable. I'll fabricate Kingston's affair, and if I can get a divorce, I'll get plenty of alimony from the divorce court.
There was an overwhelming amount of shocking information. As I went through the notifications, there was also talk about Samuel and Daniel.
I gave birth to them handsome, thinking they could earn money, but neither wants to enter the entertainment industry, and they don't have the guts to continue.
It's really unbelievable.
I spent a lot of money on dance lessons and auditions, but it was all wasted.
They're so ungrateful. What kind of mom says that? She forced her children to do things for her own ego and then calls them ungrateful. I truly felt sorry for these kids. And Elise, who seemed so poised and composed, was this foul-mouthed and spiteful. I thought her bad language at the funeral was due to high emotions, but this was her true self. Did Kingston know this about her, or was he deceived? I was very shocked to learn about Elise's true nature. Contrary to my shock, Samuel and Daniel seemed somewhat relieved.
By now, the relatives and Mom's friends must be shocked.
Later, Elise's mom called me. I am truly sorry for what Elise did. I can't apologize enough. She apologized repeatedly, sounding very remorseful. Since it was something that couldn't be undone, I accepted the apology and asked about Elise's condition. According to Elise's mom, after the exposure that day, Elise was cut off by her relatives and friends. Therefore, she doesn't know where Elise is or what she is doing now. I couldn't help but agree that this was the likely outcome. Honestly, there were days when I worried whether it was the right decision to suddenly take in Samuel and Daniel. But I felt relieved that we severed ties early enough before their lives were further disrupted. I believe they can live happily without being involved with Elise. And rumor has it that her affair partner, who was so keen on remarrying, also abandoned her after realizing her rotten nature. But that wasn't all. Because evidence of the affair spread among her friends, one of them identified the affair partner and investigated further. It turned out that the affair partner also had a habit of cheating and was involved with multiple women. Elise was just one of them. Furthermore, the claim of being a doctor was also a lie. In reality, he was just an ordinary employee at a small company. There were many other misdeeds that were uncovered, leading to a great deal of trouble for him. A few days later, I received a call from Kingston's company. They informed me that Kingston's death would be considered a work-related incident, and compensation would be provided. I knew that Kingston's death wasn't caused by his job. The idea of it being labeled as a work-related incident and receiving compensation made me feel extremely guilty. I couldn't just sit and wait to receive the compensation, so I decided to speak to Kingston's supervisor. I apologize for the trouble caused by Kingston's situation. The truth is, Kingston collapsed not because of work, but due to the stress from his daughter-in-law. I explained the whole situation to him. The supervisor looked shocked as he listened. But then his expression turned serious. No matter the reason, we want you to accept the compensation. It's the last acknowledgement we can give to Kingston. Kingston had been close to completing a significant project, which ended up being a huge success. His contributions were immense, and without his efforts, the project wouldn't have succeeded. This project was a turning point for the company's growth, and they were very grateful to Kingston, regretting not being able to express their gratitude directly. I was deeply moved by how highly they valued Kingston. Kingston's hard work and dedication hadn't been in vain. If only I could tell Kingston directly that the project was successful and that the company thrived because of him. But that wasn't possible. Hoping that Kingston would find some peace in heaven, I decided to accept the compensation. The compensation was more than enough to support Samuel and Daniel's education in the coming years. As Kingston had wished during his life, I wanted the two of them to grow up freely and peacefully, pursuing their interests. One day, they would both have dreams of their own. I didn't want them to give up on their dreams just because they were living with me after losing their parents. To provide them with various opportunities when the time came, I planned to save this money carefully. With a strong determination to raise these two boys to be individuals who could contribute to society like Kingston, I made up my mind. From now on, the three of us would cherish Kingston's memory and live happily together.
What did you just say?
I couldn't help but be shocked. A luxurious restaurant in a high-end hotel. The table was adorned with sumptuous dishes, symbolizing the importance of this special day. Sitting across from me was Brandon, the father of my daughter's fiancé, with a malicious grin on his face.
Sarah grew up in a single-mother household, and she didn't even go to college, right? She must have had a tough time. Like maybe delivering newspapers early in the morning to pay for her tuition.
Or perhaps the nightlife industry. At first, his words seemed to express concern about Sarah's single-mother upbringing. However, they quickly turned into something mocking. I wanted to believe I had misheard. Today was a family meeting with my daughter, Sarah's fiancé, Nicholas, and his parents. It was an important occasion where we were supposed to become one family, yet the words spoken were incredibly insulting. Being directly or indirectly mocked for being a single mother was something I had sadly grown accustomed to. But this time, the setting made it even more intolerable.
Is that so? You must have had a hard time.
Miranda, Brandon's wife, sitting next to him, said something unbelievably condescending, as if she truly pitied me from the bottom of her heart. What is wrong with these people? Their behavior was beyond rude. Sarah had told me a bit about Nicholas's parents beforehand. Brandon, a well-known lawyer, famous not only for his skills, but also for the many bad rumors surrounding him. And his wife Miranda, a daughter from an upper-class family who married the son of a lawyer. I had heard she was kind, but judging by her current behavior, she seemed extremely naive.
Dad. Mom, how can you say that to Sarah and Jessica? It's disrespectful.
Nicholas, sitting next to Sarah, tried to soften the situation. He finally got over the shock of Brandon's abusive remarks and turned red with anger. Sarah had told me that Nicholas was gentle and rarely raised his voice. As Sarah said, he seemed like a kind person, and I found myself nodding calmly despite the unexpected turn of events.
What's disrespectful?
Miranda, seemingly not understanding Brandon's sarcasm, looked puzzled. Brandon, on the other hand, had a mocking attitude, as if to say, "You inexperienced fool."
What's wrong with speaking the truth? I've seen many people from single mother and single father households. Many of them ended up committing crimes and came crying to their families. What?
My vision gradually turned red. Being mocked for being a single mother was one thing. But to insinuate that we had lived our lives doing something shameful or criminal was something I could not tolerate. And apparently, Sarah felt the same way.
Sure, I didn't go to college, but now I work at the same law firm as Nicholas, and I'm an international lawyer. Haven't you heard that from Nicholas? What?
Now it was Brandon's turn to be at a loss for words. I felt a bad sense of satisfaction. But
someone like you couldn't possibly become an international lawyer. Don't lie. Have some shame, shame on you.
Brandon, his face turning as red as it could get, berated Sarah. The atmosphere was no longer suitable for a family meeting, charged with anger. Sarah tried to respond forcefully, but Brandon spoke first.
How did you get that qualification anyway? Probably by offering sexual favors for business deals, right? Single mothers like you and your kind are all the same. Even your dead father, I bet he didn't die in a dignified way either.
I heard a sound, like something thick breaking inside me. It wasn't just my imagination. Otherwise, why would my vision be so red and wavering like water?
What do you know? Mom?
Sarah's worried voice broke through, noticing my change. She was regaining her composure. But it was too late to stop.
What do you even understand? My husband died helping others, standing up for his sense of justice. You know nothing about him, about us who loved him and his sense of right.
I am Jessica. I met my husband, Rodney, back when I was still a student. At that time, I was confident in my language skills and, being young, I traveled abroad alone. It was during a long summer break. I didn't join any tour groups, just wandered around tourist spots with a guidebook in hand. I knew there were dangerous areas, so I took all possible precautions against theft and pickpocketing. But I am a young person venturing out of a safe area for the first time. I was quickly targeted by a shady local man.
Hey there, beautiful. First time here? I know some beautiful spots not in the guidebook. Let me show you around. No, thank you. Please leave me alone.
Looking back, my foreign language skills were terrible. Suddenly, the man's speech sped up and became hard to understand. Even though it was just my unfamiliarity, it was probably normal speed for him. I responded awkwardly, with incorrect grammar. That likely made him think I was an easy target. Despite feeling chills, I tried to keep smiling, but he suddenly grabbed my arm.
No, let go. It's fine, there's a hotel nearby if you're tired.
What is he saying? I thought frantically, struggling to shake off his hand. But the difference in physical strength between men and women was evident. Moreover, he was quite well built. It wasn't easy to break free. I looked around for help, but even in a foreign land, it was the same. People passed by either ignoring us or seeing it as a minor squabble, offering no assistance. I felt helpless. I thought of my parents, who had been worried about my trip until the last moment. I felt sorry for them. I might never see them again. Just as I was about to give up.
Hey! There you are! Over here!
A male voice I didn't recognize. From his accent, he didn't sound like a local. Both I and the man holding my arm looked puzzled. Unfazed by the tense atmosphere, the man, likely from my own country, approached us with a smile.
Who the hell are you? Thank goodness I found you. She's my friend. I lost sight of her for a moment and got worried. Who are you?
Out of the frying pan into the fire. Speaking softly in my native language, I asked the stranger. Then the man also whispered. Trust me. He whispered back. Then he turned back to the other man, smiling, and gestured for him to release my hand.
I did try to warn her at first, but she has this troublesome habit of getting so engrossed in unusual things that she forgets her surroundings. It seems she couldn't control herself. You really helped us. Especially in a foreign land, where there's even rumors about people pretending to flirt only to engage in human trafficking.
The man's face tightened as if he realized this might be true. He then released my hand and hurried away, almost fleeing. Did I get saved?
Yes, it seems so.
As the man's figure disappeared, the previously smiling and composed man suddenly collapsed to the ground, drained of energy.
Hey, are you okay?
I had suspected him of being a shady character, but this sudden collapse made me forget all those thoughts. Peering into his face, I realized he had been putting on a brave front. Sweat trickled down his smiling, yet pained face. I'm not doing so well, but I'm glad it worked out somehow. His face showed genuine relief from the bottom of his heart. Seeing his soft expression relaxed me a bit and reminded me of something important. Oh my. I didn't even thank you properly. I'm so sorry. And thank you. You saved me. When I hastily expressed my gratitude, the man seemed a bit taken aback. It's really okay. Meeting people, even through small things, is fate. It's only natural to help someone in trouble. He stood up with a smile, lightly brushing the dirt off his pants. Helping someone in trouble is only natural. His calm words echoed in my mind. There are still people like this out there. People who help others in need without expecting anything in return. Just because they have a strong sense of justice.
But really, be careful in this country. What I said earlier is not a lie.
He was probably referring to the rumors about human trafficking disguised as flirting. Thinking back, I was indeed in a dangerous situation. If this man hadn't helped me. If that other man had taken more forceful measures. When I think about it, I and this man were truly lucky. Thinking about it made me tremble with fear. Well, I'll be going now. His voice snapped me back to reality. I didn't know why. But maybe I was already drawn to his sense of justice at that moment.
Wait, please!
I found myself calling out to him as he was about to leave. The man turned back with a curious look. I called out without thinking, but had no idea what to say next. Desperately trying to think, I finally said, "Please let me thank you properly. I just realized I didn't even ask your name." It sounded like a cheesy pickup line. But the man, without suspicion, just gave a wry smile and told me his name. My name isn't anything special, but it's Rodney. I'm just a solo traveler. This was how I met Rodney, who would later become my husband. After that incident in a foreign land, we exchanged contact information and, strangely enough, started dating soon after I returned home. Whenever our schedules allowed, we went on numerous dates. I soon realized that Rodney was a man of unyielding integrity and justice. During our dates, if he saw someone in need, even if it wasn't a person, he would rush to help regardless of our plans. For example, if he saw a lost child, he would stay with them until they were reunited with their parents, even if it took hours. Despite his fear of heights, he once climbed a tree to retrieve a baseball for some kids who had gotten it stuck. If he saw an injured stray cat, he would pick it up and rush it to the animal hospital without a second thought, not caring if he got blood on himself. He would take responsibility and care for it until he found it a new home. Honestly, sometimes, I felt a bit uneasy about his tendency to prioritize strangers over me. But that was just how he was, and it was one of the reasons I fell in love with him, so I chose to keep quiet. Time passed, we got married, and the following year, we had a child. Our daughter, Sarah, who had a gentle face just like him. Since Sarah was born, our daily life seemed to be filled with even more happiness. I had a loving husband, an adorable daughter. We weren't exactly wealthy, but we cherished our modest happiness, laughing together as a family. Those were days without any problems. However, those happy days came to an abrupt end. 5 years after Sarah was born, Rodney died at the young age of 31. It was a day I'll never forget. An unseasonal heavy rain was falling. Sarah and I stayed up, rubbing our sleepy eyes, waiting for Rodney, who was late coming home from work. The things Sarah and I talked about. I don't remember the details that much. I only remember the sound of the rain pounding down, and the sudden ringing of the phone informing me that Rodney had been taken to the hospital. With a sleepy Sarah, we finally made it to the hospital through the pouring rain, only to be greeted by Rodney, who was already cold. The doctor standing next to me calmly told me the cause of Rodney's death was drowning. In the midst of this heavy rain, he had jumped into the river to save a drowning boy, and only Rodney ended up losing his life. That was so typical of Rodney, I thought, as a strangely calm part of me noted. He saved someone, not thinking of himself, and ended up dying, a beloved and important hero.
Mommy, what's wrong?
Sarah, still looking sleepy, gazed up at me. I couldn't cry. I couldn't let myself cry in front of Sarah, who didn't understand what was happening. I desperately tried to hold back my tears. But,
Mommy, why is Daddy sleeping? Sarah, stop!
I instinctively stopped Sarah, who was trying to approach Rodney, and hugged her tightly. I didn't know why I did that myself. Mommy, it hurts, Sarah said from within my arms. But I didn't let go, holding her even tighter. As if to shield her from the reality of Rodney's death, I hugged her small body. Also, as if to shield myself from that same reality. That small, moving warmth. A sign of life. Unable to bear it, I silently let my tears flow. What followed were stormy days. I held Rodney's funeral, desperately, watching Sarah, who finally understood Rodney's death, sobbing. Someone claiming to represent the boy Rodney saved came to the funeral, but I don't remember much, being overwhelmed with arranging the funeral while feeling a deep sense of loss. Even after the funeral, peace did not return to us. With Rodney gone, we became a single-mother household. Fortunately, with the savings Rodney left us, the job I had before Sarah was born, and the support from many people who admired Rodney, we managed to get by. However, relying on that alone would eventually lead to running out of resources. Therefore, I decided to start working again once things had settled down a bit. I worked day and night, without regard to the time. As a result, I felt guilty, knowing that Sarah was likely feeling lonely. Yet, I couldn't afford to stop. Of course, there was the financial aspect, but more importantly, it was because of a promise I had made to Rodney one day.
Sarah should see the world. It might be difficult to do it the way I did, but I want her to see the world, to understand it. And one day, I hope she becomes a kind person who can help those in need.
These were Rodney's words, often repeated like a mantra during his lifetime. I wanted Sarah to see the world. I wanted her to experience many things. I didn't want her to give up on those experiences because of money. That was my only driving force. Sarah never complained to my face about it. Maybe she was being considerate in her own way. Her grades were always top-notch, so she wouldn't have to go to cram school. Teachers constantly suggested prestigious private schools, but she stubbornly chose public schools. She went through public middle and high schools, and then came the time to think about her next steps.
Mom, I have a favor to ask.
Sarah said this abruptly. Ever since Rodney passed away, Sarah had never made such a selfish request, possibly out of consideration. Her wish was to travel the world instead of going to college. She wanted to see the world and experience things that school and books couldn't teach, things that could only be understood on the ground. Even knowing her true feelings, I couldn't help but wonder why. As a parent, I wanted her to go to college without worrying about finances and to live a happy life. While I had those thoughts, I also questioned if going to college and living in a narrow world would truly make her happy. Was it right for a parent to crush the first selfish wish of a child who had endured so much until now? Could I, with my own ego, destroy the wishes and promises that Rodney had always spoken of during his life? The answer was, of course, no.
All right, go ahead.
Fortunately, I had saved enough money over the years to cover the travel expenses without needing to splurge. When I told her this, Sarah cried with joy and repeatedly promised to work and pay it back. But I refused, saying that after all the patience she had shown, she should allow me to do this much. And so, after graduating from high school, Sarah set off on her journey around the world. By coincidence, it seemed as if she mirrored Rodney's image from that day, something I hadn't shared with her. Every day, without fail, I received a message from Sarah, not only to let me know she was safe but also to share her experiences. There might have been issues with international signals, but it was likely she was also being mindful of communication costs. She had grown into such a considerate child. The messages varied slightly each day, usually consisting of text and photos from her travels. Sometimes, she expressed amazement at the crowds and high prices in major cities abroad, along with photos of skyscrapers she had never seen before. Other times, she shared how people helped her when she was struggling in a foreign country, along with heartwarming photos of her with those who had helped her. There were also times when she entered developing countries, where she was deeply moved by the locals' determination to live their lives despite their circumstances. She felt ashamed of herself for having given up on various things because of being from a single-parent household. With such messages, she sent beautiful photos of sunsets she had seen with the local people. One day, amidst the joyful yet humbling exchanges of messages, there was a note saying, "I'm coming back soon."
It read, "Mom, I want to become an international lawyer. When I return, I will study law, go abroad, and get qualified as an international lawyer. I want to help people from many different countries."
Sarah didn't know much about Rodney's sense of justice and desire to help others. It was one of the traits that attracted me to him and made me love him deeply. I never realized that Sarah had inherited this beautiful quality from him.
She truly grew up to be a kind person, just like you wished.
I reported Sarah's growth to Rodney's photo while showing him the message. In the photo, he seemed to have a bittersweet smile. And then, time passed again. When Sarah returned, she worked at a law firm while saving for exam fees and studying for her lawyer qualification. I offered to cover the exam fees, but she refused and insisted on achieving it on her own. Is this what it means for a child to become independent? While feeling proud of Sarah's growth, I also felt a tinge of loneliness. Although she declined financial support, I helped her in other ways, particularly in her daily life. I made her late-night snacks when she worked late and packed sandwiches for her lunch to save on food expenses. "You don't have to go through all this trouble," she said with a wry smile, but she accepted my help nonetheless. Years passed since the journey that changed Sarah, and she finally qualified as a lawyer and worked at a law firm. There, she gained more knowledge and experience, and eventually, with her boss's permission, went abroad. In a foreign land, she achieved her dream of becoming an international lawyer. She sent me this news when she turned 27. Since then, a lot has happened. Just like the day she told me she wanted to become an international lawyer. Along with the notification of her qualification, there was a photo of Sarah smiling. I showed the message to Rodney's photo.
Sarah has grown into a kind person, just like you. She will help many people through law. There will be tough times and challenges. So please, watch over her from your side.
I thought of Rodney and made my wish. I had no idea then that a year later, Sarah would meet her future spouse at work and decide to get married. And that I would face such an insulting situation at that family meeting. I quickly recounted my memories and promises with my late husband, and proudly told them about our daughter who inherited his sense of justice and became an international lawyer. Suddenly, the room fell silent. Even the unpleasant parents of her partner, Nicholas, and Sarah herself froze in shock. I had done it. But, although I felt sorry for Sarah, I had no regrets. Rodney had helped a stranger boy selflessly and lost his life. My beloved, proud Rodney. I won't tolerate anyone mocking his life and the reason for his death, even if they are the parents of my daughter's spouse. Brandon's face turned red with anger. Next to him, Miranda paled and looked back and forth between Brandon and me. I braced myself for the worst words imaginable. It was at that moment when I resolved myself. It was Nicholas who broke the silence first, quite unexpectedly. With an expression of disbelief, Nicholas began to speak.
That person, could it be?
I was the next one to be surprised by what Nicholas said. He was completely right. Nicholas accurately captured Rodney's character from back then, and even knew the name of the hospital where Rodney had been taken.
Nicholas, how do you?
So it was true.
Nicholas interpreted my words as confirmation, and his gentle expression contorted. It was a mixture of joy and regret, a kind of bittersweet smile. Then, suddenly, he apologized deeply. It was more than just an apology.
Nicholas?
Nicholas.
What are you doing?
Brandon, enraged, tried to make Nicholas stand up, but Nicholas brushed his arm away and apologized even more deeply.
Jessica and Sarah. Even though I didn't realize it, my parents were incredibly rude. Nicholas. You don't have to go that far. That's right. We understand your feelings, Nicholas.
Even though we urged him, Nicholas stubbornly refused like a child.
No, my parents did something that terrible. Sarah. It might be hard to believe, and even I still can't believe it, but the boy your father saved was
me when I was young. It was now our turn to be surprised by his words. This was Nicholas's story. At the time, he was severely bullied at school because of Brandon's bad reputation. On that day, he encountered bullies on his way back from tutoring, and they threw his important tutoring bag into the river. Trying not to worry his parents, he attempted to retrieve the bag by himself. However, young Nicholas slipped and fell into the river. The river, swollen with rain, had a swift current, making it impossible for him to return to the shore on his own. In that situation, Rodney dived into the river to save him, without any regard for his own safety. Rodney first brought Nicholas to the shore, then jumped back into the river to retrieve the bag that had been swept away. Just because Nicholas was in trouble. And as a result, Rodney died. Nicholas knew the name of the hospital where Rodney was taken because his worried housekeeper, who came to pick him up, had called it in. Nicholas was also taken to the same hospital by the paramedics as a precaution. Later, young Nicholas, upon hearing from the nurses that his savior had died, tried to apologize to our family immediately. However, he was prevented by Brandon, who was a renowned lawyer at the time. If it became known that the son of a famous lawyer was bullied and caused someone's death, it would damage his reputation. For such conservative reasons, he left the apology to his representative. Nicholas deeply regretted it. If he hadn't jumped into the river, if he had been more responsible, if he had been a person of justice. Since that day, Nicholas swore to become a lawyer who could help others as much as possible, just like Brandon, but never like Brandon, who was drowned in power. A different kind of silence enveloped the room. Nicholas, filled with rage, remained utterly silent, as if he had become a completely different person. Then, in the next moment, he did something unexpected. He offered a deep apology.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were Nicholas' benefactor. I spoke out of turn.
Neither Sarah nor I could say anything. I couldn't fully grasp Sarah's feelings. She simply stared quietly at the family she could consider her father's enemy. As for me, I was on the verge of exploding with anger. I thought, why apologize now? If he was going to apologize, why didn't he come to apologize the moment Rodney passed away? I was convinced that this apology wasn't sincere. However, it was Sarah who spoke first.
Both of you, please stop.
Her voice was surprisingly calm and gentle. It wasn't just me who was taken aback by this. Both of them also wore expressions of shock. Sarah continued.
Indeed, it's hard not to feel that apologizing now is too late. Brandon, as a fellow lawyer and as a person,
I find it difficult to forgive you for not coming to apologize immediately. Brandon's face flushed red again. But, perhaps realizing he stood no chance, he only let out a small groan. Sarah continued to address him.
I'm sure my father would say this. He'd say he was just glad that the boy from that time is safe. That's all that matters.
Then, crouching in front of Nicholas, who was still kneeling, Sarah spoke with a tearful, bittersweet smile.
My father saved you, and you've carried on his sense of justice. I know this because I've watched you in the office all these years. So, Nicholas, who has carried on my father's will, please marry me.
Are you sure?
Yes, that is an unchangeable fact. But it's also true that you've inherited my father's sense of justice.
Tears streamed down Nicholas' cheeks. Then, grasping Sarah's hands tightly, he said in a voice full of emotion.
Thank you, Sarah. I'll make sure to make you happy.
As Nicholas finally broke down in tears, Sarah gently embraced him. Seeing such a tender moment between the two of them, the anger and resentment within me began to melt away gently. When I looked over at Brandon, he had an awkward expression and was looking away. Perhaps, in his own way, this was his way of acknowledging Sarah and Nicholas's marriage. Was it all right to feel relieved about this? I'm sure Rodney would have said it was. Thinking this, I sent my silent blessings to Nicholas, who was sobbing, and Sarah, who was gently comforting him. At the end of such an eventful day, with the world bathed in the colors of sunset, Sarah, Nicholas, and I found ourselves at a certain place. Rodney's resting place, the cemetery.
I am deeply sorry that I couldn't come to thank you back then because I went against my father's wishes. Although it's late, it's thanks to you that I am here now.
Thank you very much. He said his gratitude. Sarah also spoke to the grave.
Dad, I still feel lonely without you, but thank you for saving Nicholas that day.
Then she laid the bouquet of flowers she had been holding. Today, since it was mainly about Sarah and Nicholas's report, I stood quietly in the background.
Although it might be too much to say I'll do as much as you did, I promise here and now to help those in need and to protect Sarah from now on. So Dad, please watch over us from the sky. I will also do my best to help as many people in need as you and Nicholas.
The two of them made their vows in front of Rodney's grave. My daughter, who had grown strong over time, and the young man who had inherited Rodney's sense of justice. Rodney, are you seeing this? The things you did were never in vain. Even though you are gone, your will lives on and is being carried forward. Feeling the joy in my heart, I shed tears for the first time since that funeral day. Hey, you're all set to leave, right? Just waiting for the movers now. I see. Well, it'll be refreshing not to see your face anymore. Moreover, being forced to move out and having the locks changed meticulously so I can't ever enter the house again was over the top. I used to question the need for such measures, but now it seems trivial. When I first met my husband, he was a timid man, always wary of others' opinions. But soon after our marriage, he became a classic henpecked husband. And a week after I moved to my new place, my husband showed up, frantic.
Hey, it's me. Open up.
Huh? Who might you be? Pretending to be clueless in front of my frantic husband. I'm Scarlett, 35, working part-time 3 days a week. It's been 2 years since I married Anthony. We didn't have kids, but I thought we could still have a happy life together. In the early days of our marriage, we would spend nights discussing how we wanted to live our lives together. Both of us had little experience in love, so it was a bit tentative at first, but I think we enjoyed our time together.
Let's be one of those couples who stay close even as we get older.
Yes, I would like that. Maybe 2 kids?
Ah, I was thinking the same. A boy and a girl.
Me too.
Such casual conversations were enjoyable. For me, who had little interest in love or marriage, meeting Anthony was a shock. We met at a party I attended just to make up numbers. He seemed to be there for the same reason, and we hit it off talking about our similar situations, eventually becoming friends. Back then, he was serious and somewhat timid, always considerate towards me, which I found endearing. And then, surprisingly,
Scarlett, I want you to marry me. I'll make sure you are happy. What? But we're not even dating yet? Oh, right.
I wasn't put off by his unexpected proposal, rather, I thought that maybe with him, it could work.
If I'm okay with you, then yes, I accept. Really? Of course.
I still remember how happy Anthony was when I accepted his proposal. I had no doubt that with Anthony, I could have a happy life ahead. We got married in just 3 months after meeting, a whirlwind for both of us. With little experience in love, we often didn't know what to do, but that was part of the fun. Soon after, we started living together, but about a month in, I began to see the difference between ideal and reality.
Scarlett, there's something I would like to ask you.
What is it? That day, Anthony looked different, more serious and tense.
I hate to ask this, but can you quit your job and become a housewife?
What?
I was shocked by his sudden statement and couldn't understand why he would say such a thing. After all, he had never once commented on my job before. And this was just the beginning. Can I ask why? When I asked, he sighed before responding.
When Scarlett works, it makes me feel like I'm not needed.
Did someone tell you that?
It's not that, but all the wives of married men in my company are housewives.
I had expressed my desire to continue working when we got married, especially since saving money was important for our future. Still, I couldn't believe Anthony would bring this up now.
But I did say I wanted to keep my job when we got married, right? I know, but as my wife, Scarlett, I wish you would consider my position.
Then why not just pretend that I've quit? There's no need to actually leave my job. I repeatedly expressed my unwillingness to quit, but it seemed Anthony valued social appearance more. My attempts to persuade him seemed to fall on deaf ears.
Look, if things stay this way, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and superiors. I'm the head of this household, aren't I? Please, just do as I ask.
Either way, it's not something I can decide on the spot. Let me think about it. Okay, but please make it quick. Yet, I knew I couldn't let things stay this way for long. I feared what else he might say if I didn't act soon. So, I immediately consulted with my boss, Robinson. I had been working as an administrative assistant at this company since high school graduation. Robinson, in a way, had been in a similar situation. Her husband had been a henpecked husband, and unable to tolerate it, she divorced him. Now, she's a hard-working single mother whom I deeply respect.
That must be tough. I think divorce is an option, but it's difficult since you're newlyweds.
Yes, I haven't considered that yet.
But if you quit, it'll be hard to fill the gap left by Scarlett.
I'm not planning on just quitting. I'd like to find a way to keep working if possible.
How about continuing in a part-time capacity for now? I think full-time would be too noticeable.
That's a good idea. I'll discuss it again with Anthony. If he still disagrees, then I'll follow Robinson's suggestion and ask to work part-time.
That sounds like a wise choice.
Always feel free to come to me for advice.
I'm here to help as your senior.
Thank you, I really appreciate it.
Our conversation continued, and it turned out Robinson's ex-husband also changed drastically after marriage. It was exactly like my current situation. I had never thought about it before, but now I realize that some men change completely after marriage, as if they become someone else. Looking at it another way, maybe I was deceived. Despite several discussions with Anthony, we remained at an impasse.
Anyway, a woman's job after marriage is to listen to her husband and take care of the home, right? What era are you living in? Nowadays, it's normal for both spouses to work. Maybe for other couples, but we are different. You understand that, right?
I might, but I can't agree with it. Please, try to understand how I feel.
After that, Anthony kept nagging me daily until I would agree to quit my job. In the end, his attempts to persuade me failed. I contacted Robinson and decided to formally quit. However, in reality, I continued working part-time, 3 days a week. Thankfully, my boss understood my situation and allowed me to work reduced hours. I quit my job at the company, just like Anthony wanted.
Oh, really? Thank you. Now I can relax about my standing at work.
I'm glad to hear that. By this time, it seemed like all Anthony cared about was how he was perceived by others. I couldn't help but feel confused by his drastic change. I had lied to him, preferring that to worsening our relationship. But I soon realized that it was a mistake. I had hoped resetting our relationship would allow us to start afresh. Instead, he behaved as if it was natural for him to be superior and took it out on me.
Today, a junior colleague is coming over. I need you to host. What? I didn't know about this. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just the basics will do. Please prepare. Wait a minute.
He hung up. So, I prepared drinks and snacks for the guest. But it seemed Anthony wasn't pleased.
Didn't I ask you to get things ready for today? But you said just the basics would be fine. You took that seriously. This will lower my reputation. I need you to act properly as my wife.
What's that supposed to mean? I did my best.
What? You have a problem with me?
No, not really. Anthony's face was unlike anything I had seen before. I was so shocked that I couldn't say anything more. After that, he began inviting people over almost every week. While he was having fun, he instructed me to stand by, ready for anything. I think he wanted to show off to everyone how capable a husband he was.
Anthony, I think having guests every week is a bit much.
No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should follow my decisions. That's your duty as my wife, Scarlett.
But it costs money, too.
You'll manage it somehow. But Anthony's excesses showed no signs of stopping.
How am I supposed to manage it? Oh, stop nagging.
Whenever I asked a question he didn't like, he called it nagging and avoided answering. Waking up, preparing meals, making sandwiches for lunch, and getting his suit ready for the day. After seeing Anthony off, I would do household chores. On days with part-time work, I worked from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. There was hardly any time to rest. But I loved my job, and working felt more like a break than anything.
Scarlett, you seem tired lately, aren't you?
Yes, a little bit.
Really? Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Of course. Thank you so much.
Sophia was a truly dependable person, unlike Anthony. She was concerned about how Anthony's treatment of me was getting worse day by day. Sophia knew I was working part-time in secret and kept it hidden from Anthony.
Thank you always, Sophia.
Don't mention it. But I never expected Anthony to act like this.
Neither did I. I have tried talking to him, but he doesn't listen, and we can hardly have a proper conversation anymore.
I'm sorry. If only I were stronger.
Don't be hard on yourself. You're doing great with both work and housework. I really appreciate your help.
I'm glad to hear that.
Living with Sophia was nothing but a positive experience for me. But it seemed Anthony didn't like how close Sophia and I were. And because of that, he made an unthinkable move.
Where's Sophia?
Mom's gone now.
What do you mean gone? Mom's getting on in years, and I thought it'd be better for her to be in a facility. You actually put her in a home?
Yeah. Just finished moving her in. Now I can do whatever I want with the house. I couldn't believe this happened while I was at my parents' home. To think he would put his own mother in a facility. She was injured, but not to the extent that she needed to be in a facility. He must have sent Sophia away just so he could do as he pleased. When I visited Sophia in the facility center, she seemed surprisingly well. I'm sorry it came to this.
No, it's not your fault, Sophia.
I never thought he would go to such extremes.
I'm afraid of what he might do if I oppose him. I'll miss Sophia, but I'll try to manage.
If you need anything, you're always welcome here.
Thank you.
Afterward, we moved out of our current home and into my in-laws' house. Even though I managed the house, Anthony took it for granted and never showed gratitude. The idea of having children, which we had discussed early in our marriage, now seemed completely off the table. Anthony ignored me, preferring to spend his time out and about. Moreover, he started creating inexplicable rules out of nowhere. No matter how late Anthony came home, I had to stay awake waiting for him, and if I woke up later than him in the morning, he would get angry. What time will you be home today? I'm not sure, but stay up until I get back. Okay.
Thanks.
One day, after such an exchange, when Anthony came home, I noticed something. As I took his suit to hang it up, I smelled a fragrance I had never smelled before. It was a sweet, feminine scent, and since I don't wear perfume, it was clear evidence of an affair. Whenever he came home late, I would notice the same perfume scent. And that day, unusually, he suggested I could go to bed before him. Something felt off, so I quietly went to the living room to check and overheard their conversation. She has no idea. I'll kick her out soon enough. I could hear them clearly, perhaps because the woman's voice was loud. From their conversation, it seemed their relationship had been going on for a while. Although I wasn't surprised because of the perfume incident, I was disgusted. He was still technically Anthony. Even though I wanted to believe in him. His treatment of me never changed. It was approaching 2 years into our marriage. It's sudden, but I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to prepare everything for it.
That's really short notice.
I'll be gone for about 3 days. Please get my clothes ready.
Understood.
I can't believe he could come up with such a lie about a business trip. It wasn't a business trip, it was a trip with his mistress. I remembered a conversation I had with Anthony's colleague's wife when we met before.
Be careful if he suddenly says he has a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those.
I had also found evidence beforehand. I saw a chat on his mobile phone he had left in the living room, detailing how he took paid leave for this trip. This would be the beginning of the end for us. With proof of his affair, I planned to confront him with divorce papers when he returned. But it was my husband who made the first move. Are you all set to leave?
The movers will be here soon.
That was the first thing he said when he came home. He had told me to leave the house while he was away. I need you to be out before I get back.
What? What are you talking about all of a sudden?
Exactly what I said.
You can't just spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately.
Then I'll wait a bit, but get ready to leave. See ya. I never thought my once timid, overly concerned about others' opinions husband would turn into such a henpecked husband, but this was the last straw. The future I once imagined with him now seemed like a distant memory. Living with such a man, I couldn't see a bright future ahead. I wonder what will happen next. This might be interesting.
Hasn't the mover arrived yet?
No need to rush. They should be here soon.
Oh, and I almost forgot to tell you, I'm changing the locks of the house.
Okay. Got it.
Thinking I won't have to see your face again is refreshing.
I thought it was unbelievable, but these were his final words to a wife he had lived with for nearly 2 years. Believing we would no longer be involved with each other, I quickly left the place. After that, I instructed my lawyer to send the divorce papers. Despite the situation, my husband was brazenly posting pictures with his mistress on social media. I wondered how he could be so foolish. How could he be so foolish, not realizing he was providing proof of his infidelity? Even our mutual friends, noticing his odd behavior, reached out to ask what was going on. After being forced out of the in-laws' house, I returned to my job, moving from part-time to full-time again. Furthermore, I moved into my long-aspired suburban high-rise apartment. It was quite spacious for one person, but without Anthony, it felt incredibly comfortable. I was just waiting for any contact from him, but about a month after moving into my new place, early one morning, my doorbell rang. When I checked the monitor, surprisingly, it was Anthony standing there.
Hey, it's me, Anthony. Open up, Scarlett.
His sudden demand to let him in was beyond presumptuous. I just couldn't understand him anymore. I decided to play dumb, thinking it might be more amusing than just turning him away. Who are you? I don't know you.
Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face.
I don't have a husband. I think you're talking about someone else.
He looked desperate, almost on the verge of tears. It was the timid version of him from before we were married. Of course, I didn't let him in and continued to pretend he was a stranger.
Please, just listen. I've been deceived.
And
I need Scarlett's help.
I'm sorry, but I have no obligation to help. And if you keep bothering me, I'll call the police, okay?
Are you serious?
After all, I don't know you.
Anthony probably thought he could rely on me to sort things out when he was in trouble. But the person I am now wouldn't do such a thing. Yet, I was losing my patience with my husband who refused to give up.
Enough is enough. You created this mess, so it's your responsibility to deal with it. You don't have to be so harsh.
What?
Oh, and before I forget, you can't live in your parents' house anymore.
What do you mean?
Do you know whose name that house is in?
No, but
it used to be Sophia's, but now it's in my name.
Why?
I explained to Anthony why things had come to this. Anthony told me to leave. I had gone to consult with Sophia. When I told her, even Sophia was visibly angry and dismayed.
I can't believe my son turned out to be such a fool. I'm really sorry it turned out this way after all the help you've given me, Sophia.
You're divorcing Anthony, right?
Yes. That's for the best. Then, I'll transfer the house to you, Scarlett.
What?
Thus, Sophia transferred the rights to the in-laws' house to me. Unbeknownst to Anthony, he was living with his mistress while all this was happening.
That's the situation. Understand and leave quickly. We probably won't see each other again anyway.
Just one last thing. If you keep this up, I will really call the police.
With that, he finally gave up and left. Of course, the divorce went through, and I claimed the divorce settlement guarantee from him. Turns out, Anthony had been significantly deceived and financially drained by his mistress. On top of that, the divorce settlement amounted to around $20,000. His mistress had quickly left him, but I wasn't going to let it slide. I used a lawyer and a detective to track down the location. I'm also claiming a divorce settlement guarantee from that person. It looks like I can claim over $10,000. Additionally, the in-laws' house officially became mine. I had to ask Anthony to leave, and though he was initially reluctant, he had no choice but to accept due to the legal procedures. I don't know where he lives now and frankly, don't care. The photos he uploaded with his mistress on social media were also discovered by his company. Due to his past pretenses of living beyond his means, he couldn't endure the criticism and chose to resign voluntarily. That seemed like an inevitable outcome, considering his true nature. If I were to say one last thing, it would be this: don't mind. I'm divorced now, but I see it as a learning experience and choose to look forward positively. My relationship with Sophia continues to this day. I plan to focus on my career without relying on a man, and enjoy my life as a single individual.